Afternoon. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on September the 6th, 2022, at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Texas. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Mayor Pro Tem, we do have a quorum present in person, and Mayor Mendez has joined the meeting virtually. It is 5:01. You may call the meeting to order.
I'll call the meeting to order. Our first item.
Invocation.
Let's all stand for the prayer and remain standing, please, for the pledge to the flags. So let's start with the prayer. Father God, once again, we thank you for the many blessings we have here in Brownsville. And Lord, while we thank you for the blessings, help us to recognize the problems and challenges and to see each one the way you do, and to realize you have solutions and look to you for your wisdom. Lord, we ask for leading and guiding in every issue. And we ask you to lead all of our leaders from Washington, D.C. to Austin to right here in Brownsville. Lead and guide our Mayor Pro Tem today and everyone that's presenting anything for the best for the city of Brownsville. And help us all to unite around the very best ideas. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Let's have a short moment of silence where we can add our prayers to what has already been spoken. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, we may be seated.
Our next item is proclamations. The first one, we have proclamation declaring Wednesday, September 14, 2022, as Latino Business Day in the city of Brownsville, sponsored by Commissioner Gowan and Mayor Mendez.
Okay, Commissioner Gowan and Mayor Mendez are not able to be here today, so I'm going to read this proclamation. Is there anybody here to accept it? No? Okay,
Yes.
we'll just declare it. All
Yes,
right.
I'm here.
Uh,
Maria Fernanda Oribio on behalf of Support Latino Business.
Okay, wonderful. You're here virtually.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, declaring Wednesday, September 14, 2022, as Support Latino Business Day in the city of Brownsville. Whereas the city of Brownsville is a diverse and inclusive city made of entrepreneurs and trailblazers with a growing Latino population and thriving Latino business community. And whereas, in this spirit, our city recognizes the unique contributions of the Latino community during this year's Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations through Support Latino Business, a rallying cry for local partners, including community organizations, elected officials, business leaders, and owners to celebrate the significant economic contributions Latino-owned businesses make, the jobs they help create, and the positive impact they bring to our community and beyond. Whereas the city of Brownsville is joining communities across the country for Support Latino Business Day to acknowledge and encourage support for our Latino-owned businesses. Now, therefore, we, the member of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by the virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, do hereby declare Wednesday, September 14, 2022, as Support Latino Business Day in the city of Brownsville and urge all citizens to recognize the Latino-owned businesses and business owners for their contributions to our city and community to ensure that these businesses can thrive for generations to come and ensure that opportunities are available for small and/or Latino businesses in the city of Brownsville, done on this 6th day of September 2022. Thank you. I would welcome you to say a few words.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Fernanda, and it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm so very excited to accept this proclamation on behalf of our organization, Support Latino Business. It's truly an honor to have the support of the city of Brownsville and to see such thriving Latino Latinx business community. At Support Latino Business, we believe that together we can continue uplifting our community's ethos and shine a light on the invaluable and transformative impact our community has in our country's economy and beyond. And so we're very grateful. So thank you all for celebrating Support Latino Business Day with us on September 14th in the growing Latino and Latinx business community every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next proclamation.
Next proclamation, we have proclamation recognizing Darlene Mauser Funeral Home for their centennial anniversary, sponsored by Mayor Mendez and Commissioner De Los Santos.
At this time, I would like to welcome you up to the front to accept your proclamation. Welcome.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing Darling Mauser Funeral Home for their centennial anniversary. Whereas Mr. Warren A. Darling, born 1890, deceased 1991, obtained his license to practice as a funeral director and embalmer in 1909 at age 19 in his home state of Indiana. Mr. Darling and his family relocated to the El Jardín district of Brownsville, Texas in 1910, where he later established his undertaking establishment 12 years later in December of 1922. The W.A. Darling Undertaking Parlors Company was first located downtown at 1155 East Adams Street at the corner of 12th and East Adams Streets within the former McChesney Dry Goods Company building. And whereas in July of 1926, W.A. Darling relocated his company into a home at the corner of 15th and East Jefferson Streets, which served as his second location. Mr. Warren A. Darling wed Mrs. Annie K. Haley in June of 1933. They had a son, Warren A. Darling Jr., born 1935, deceased 1939, and a daughter, Joyce Ann Darling, born 1937. In October of 1939, Mr. Darling relocated his funeral home into the former Brown residence at 734 East Levy Street, which served as his third location. W.A. Darling Funeral Home joined the Valleywide Burial Association, an association of 10 elite funeral homes across the Rio Grande Valley, in 1942. And whereas Joyce Ann Darling began working with her father, Mr. Darling, upon graduating from Brownsville High School and went on to attend Commonwealth College of Mortuary Science in Houston, Texas, Miss Joyce Ann Darling wed Mr. Richard L. Mauser, a former high school classmate and U.S. Army veteran, in December of 1957. Mr. Mauser also attended Commonwealth College of Mortuary Science in Houston and began working for his father-in-law, Mr. Darling. And whereas in 1964, Darling Funeral Home, by invitation only, was elected by the National Selected Morticians to obtain membership within their organization. That same year, local architect Mr. Robert E. Velton was hired to plan the construction of a brand new funeral home in Brownsville. In 1965, Darling Funeral Home became known as Darling Mauser Funeral Home when Mr. and Mrs. Mauser became partners in the business with Mr. Darling. The brand new Darling Mauser Funeral Home opened its doors in March of 1966 at 945 Palm Boulevard, where it still operates today as Brownsville's second oldest funeral home. Now therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, do hereby recognize Darling Mauser Funeral Home on their 100th anniversary and for their efforts and care, it continues to provide to the community on this 6th day of September, 2022, signed Mayor and City Commissioners. Congratulations.
I'd like to welcome you to say a few words if there's somebody that would like to speak.
Mayor Mendez, Commissioner De Los Santos, and the rest of the Brownsville City Commission and community, we're so grateful for this recognition and acknowledgement as we celebrate this special year of 2022. Not every business can be proud of the fact that they've been operating for 100 years. And we'd like to thank the community of Brownsville, Texas, and surrounding communities for allowing us to continue service you during one of the most difficult times of one's life, losing a loved one. So for that, we're very grateful once again. All of you are invited to our 100th year anniversary event to be held October 28th, 2022 at Darling Mauser Funeral Home, 945 Palm Boulevard, between the hours of 4 and 7 in the evening that afternoon. So we look forward to all of you joining us then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have, Mayor Pro Tem, we have public comment. We received 9 public comment forms.
Mayor Pro Tem, Chapter 226 of our Code of Ordinances limits public comments to 15 minutes. But given the amount of engagement, the ordinance also allows for the commission to amend that, to lift those requirements as to the number or to the aggregate amount of time. If it's the commission's desire to do so, I would entertain a motion to that effect, save for and accept the 3-minute per speaker requirement.
Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Yeah, okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes. So we'll
Okay,
extend it to 9 speakers.
So the first one, we have John Wells. John Wells. Okay, we'll go to the second one. Ashley Alshire.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you and voice my concerns again. Thank you, Commissioner Galansky, for being brave enough to ask the questions people in the community want answers for regarding financial conflicts of interest between city commissioners and nonprofit organizations. Many of us hope that you continue your line of questioning before approving funds. I am here to say that I feel this city has put a target on my back by hand delivering my concerns submitted to a city official, the mayor, to the very persons I'm questioning about. On January 2022, a pedophile was arrested while working at the Children's Museum of Brownsville. That is public property, and the citizens have a right to know what happened with their children. I asked our mayor what intent he had to share a confidential concern regarding the pedophile arrest on public property only with Commissioner Roy, who then shared that concern with the pedophile's mother in a group text with the Mitty Foundation and Children's Museum. Should the expectation of citizens in Brownsville be wary of any concerns about criminal behavior because you'll be targeted, intimidated publicly, and threatened with legal action? Now, this is a valid concern. This morning, a local blog posted a story about me with inside information of Commissioner Roy's desire to sue me for libel and slander. Is this an acceptable way a citizen concern is handled through intimidation and threats of legal repercussions? Commissioner Roy has gone above and beyond a simple data collection on me. Roy has contacted Rudy Mireles with KRGV to manipulate the media coverage on the Children's Museum and knowingly lied to the news by saying I was spreading wild conspiracy theories. I am not a liar. I am not a conspiracy theorist, and I am in search for the truth. Commissioner Roy has abused the public trust. When will enough be enough? Commissioners, I ask you to stand and be brave and ask the tough questions, and that is why you have all been elected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next public comment.
The next one, we have Kenny Lewis.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, he's virtual and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good to see you for your kindness in letting me speak. For over 40 years, I have enjoyed our beautiful city. I've raised 5 children here, and now I have 12 grandchildren in the garden spot of America. I've come to plead in the name of Jesus, to plead that you would support the historic family values that our nation has held for over 300 years, the family values that your grandmother and your mothers lived and practiced. Jesus said, in the beginning, God made them male and female. And he added, this explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. Real happiness is embracing that God created each of us, either male or female. The Bible teaches that homosexuality does not describe a type of person, but a type of behavior. Sexual orientation is not a matter of civil rights, but a matter of moral right and wrong. If the Fair Practice Ordinance is adopted, the city will discriminate against the majority in this city who follow traditional marriage and biblical sexual boundaries. The Bible clearly teaches homosexuality is both unnatural and harmful, and I quote, the women turned against the natural way to have sex and instead indulged in sex with each other. The men, instead of having normal sexual relations with women, burned with lust for each other. Men did shameful things with other men, and as a result of this sin, they suffered within themselves the penalty they deserved. The current proposal would weaponize the city government against those who, because of sincerely held beliefs, cannot support the gay rights agenda. This will divide our city. Those who own ranchitos, bed and breakfasts, restaurant owners, florists, cake bakers will be forced to either violate their conscience by participating in gay celebrations or fined up to $500 per occurrence. There is clear legal precedent against such an ordinance, such as 2018 Supreme Court ruling that condemned the, quote, clear and impermissible hostility towards sincere religious beliefs. This proposal violates the free speech right of individuals to speak against the homosexual movement, even on their own social media posts. Abandoning the Bible's sexual boundaries has already led to gay rights groups arguing that pedophilia, the sexual abuse of children, should be accepted as an unchangeable sexual orientation. I'm pleading with you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior, to protect our children, our community, and to vote no on the changes to the Fair Practice Act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for letting me speak.
Next, we have Scott and Sarah Tresten. I believe they're joined virtually.
That's right.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Scott and Sarah Turstenjack. We live just off of Laredo Road.
We are also coming to appeal to you as our city's leaders. You comprise some of the best of our city. We have had delicious pizza at one of your restaurants. Another has delivered 2 of our babies, and another's father has mentored our oldest son. Tonight, the Fair Practices Ordinance is set for its second vote.
We cannot support this change to our city's ordinances. We are Christians under the lordship of Jesus Christ. Jesus was asked, which is the greatest commandment? He replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment.
Love is not passive, it is sacrificial and strong, heroic. I cannot tell my children I love them and not care for and protect them. The Bible is very clear that God made us either male or female. This is not a preference or choice. Our gender was designed and designated by God Himself.
God has also given us free will. I cannot force a person to act the way I think they should or believe as I do. So while everyone is free to decide their own beliefs, there must be some guidelines for a city and a country to function well. The Fair Practices Ordinance, if passed tonight, will force my family to go against our strongly held religious principles or face retribution. Asked to deny our conscience and the guidelines God gave us in the Bible.
Love must tell the truth. We cannot go against the guidelines set by God, our creator and sustainer, and not expect judgment. God clearly teaches that sex is designed between one man and one woman. The Bible tells us flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body.
What a heartbreak that the CDC reports, quote, at this time, data suggests that gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men make up the majority of the cases in the current monkeypox outbreak.
I cannot affirm that which will hurt my family and friends, my fellow Brownsville residents. Asking me to do so infringes on my rights as an American and as a Christian. I cannot in love affirm that which will hurt and destroy those I love.
Freedom and love have always been in and under the constraints of law. Practices Ordinance places into law that which is unhealthy, unnatural, ungodly, and will not go unpunished by a holy God. I want the best for you all and for the town that I've lived in for almost 40 years. We're raising our 8 beautiful children in the Rio Grande Valley. This will hurt our town, our people, and our children. Please vote no.
Thank you so much. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Next public comment is Erasmo Castro.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mendez and City Commissioners. Thank you. My concern today has to do with something that I think that most individuals here in the city of Brownsville can relate to, and that is the increase in regards to the amounts of money that we are paying through PUB. And, all we are asking for is a little bit of answers in regards to what the hell is going on. One of the things that we were promised is that in these upcoming months, we would be paying substantially less every month in regards to our PUB bill. That has not been the case. There's been a lot of talk in regards to a lot of audits coming out, and they've been promised. And I would remind every single sitting city commissioner and our mayor that part of their campaign promises when they were running for office and taking office was to give the community answers in regards to what happened with Tenaska. I know that in the considerations, there is a measure in regards to property tax increase, and I'd like for us to get a little bit of reasoning behind why our taxes are going to be increased in a time where, we haven't gotten any answers in regards to what happened to the Tenaska money, where we're at. Audits have been promised. We've been promised audit back since June, then it got pushed to July, and now maybe October. And again, all we want is answers. A lot of the different circumstances that we are all experiencing, and not just in the city of Brownsville, but throughout the country, has forced a lot of individuals to have to make choices in regards to what to pay. One of the comments that I've made publicly and regularly is that some of us here in the city of Brownsville, will be able to pay, the increased rates that, we've been seeing. I'm paying $300 more a month than I did last year and the previous year in a small little office space, and I'll be able to pay these monies. I think the greatest issue that should be before us is, what about those individuals that cannot afford that extra $200, $300? And individuals have seen an increase in the amounts of 50, 60%. So we'd like for the city commission and the mayor of the city of Brownsville, to start, speaking up a little bit more, be a little bit more open in regards to what the city of Brownsville is actually doing to alleviate the issue. We'd also like to know, where are these audits and what happened to those $135 million that were, collected because of TANASCA, and what was done with that money exactly. So my prayer tonight, and I will say that it is a prayer of almost every citizen in the city of Brownsville, is a little bit of relief and a lot of answers. Thank you all.
Next, we have Mary Barba. Mary? Okay, next we have Connie Lewis, but I have here that does not wish to address the commission.
Okay.
Then we have Susan Rubalcaba.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for the time. My name is Susan Rubalcaba, and I'm here to speak regarding the hot tax funds portion of the annual budget. I would first like to commend the commissioners who tabled the item last commissioners meeting due to the concerns. I would also like to state the public has those same concerns. As elected officials, it is your duty and obligation to serve the people of Brownsville and not your own interest. Unfortunately, it appears that several elected officials have forgotten this, and some never had that intention from day one. As for the hot tax funds, I have a real concern regarding the application process, the award process, the tracking, and the auditing of the organizations that apply and are granted these funds. The state of Texas has specific and stringent laws in place for the disbursement, usage, and tracking. This is not a free-for-all pocketbook of funds to all who apply. Although it seems that the city of Brownsville has had a real issue vetting these organizations and holding their feet to the fire. I noticed that the city of Brownsville's application, as compared to other cities across Texas, is general and doesn't ask the things like what events are planned to bring overnight tourists. It doesn't ask how many tourists they expect, or if they have talked to local hotels for special rates and blocked those rooms. It doesn't ask for attachments such as event budgets, proposed marketing plans, doesn't require proof of economic impact from previous events, and there is no post-event report that I can see to track the usage of the funds. A simple farmer's market or 2-hour art show, although great for the citizens of Brownsville, does not meet the guidelines of, quote, heads and beds. These organizations must show how their event will directly enhance and promote tourism, convention, and hotel industry in the city. The director of marketing at the last commission meeting for Midi Cultural District could not even answer the commission's questions regarding the usage of the hot tax funds. This from an organization requesting $60,000 of hot tax funds, 1 month after receiving $75,000 and an MOU with the city. Some of these organizations are sitting on millions in the bank, and when it's broken down, absolutely do not meet the criteria for hot tax funds. Yet here we are handing over taxpayers' dollars to the same organizations meeting after meeting. I would also like to mention there are several conflicts of interest being ignored when sitting commissioners who also are board members of these organizations are applying or assisting with the application process, voting on agenda items, and serving on the hot tax fund audit team that audits this compliance. Some are paid members, which is a direct violation of Texas Government Code 171.009. The citizens of Brownsville are sick and tired of the mishandling of our tax dollars, lack of transparency when it comes to potential and actual conflicts of interest, and lack of accountability. You were voted to serve us, not the other way around.
Mayor Pro Tem, time is up. Next, we have Stacy Bilstein. Stacy Bilstein?
Okay, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm here regarding consent agenda item number 12, and I'm just going to jump into this. Looking through the ordinance, I have some concerns about the way this is laid out. On section 56.1, I don't know if you all have it in front of you, it starts on paragraph 1, it starts talking about Supreme Court decisions in recent years, but it doesn't specify what those Supreme Court rulings were. I think it's imperative that they space in this ordinance or any ordinance specify as to what the Supreme Court rulings are. And this is way too vague, and we need specifics to make sure and for the public to know that the city is aligning with state and federal law. This is too broad. And if there were Supreme Court rulings, then what is the purpose of the city passing an ordinance saying that this is the land of the law? The Supreme Court has rulings. That is enough to say this is the land of the law. The city does not need to be passing ordinance saying this, you will be fined or prosecuted because you were found for discrimination. That is a huge concern. Section 56.5 talks about an administrator will be designated by the city manager. Who will be this, how will they designate this administrator? This administrator is going to investigate the complaints. And will this be a city employee? Will it be a current board member? Or will it be a public? Who is that person? It's imperative to know how they will be designated. Section 56.5 under exceptions, religious organizations. How will this be determined? If a person files a complaint for discrimination, does that business or a member of the public have to prove their religious religious exemption? What are the requirements to prove that exemption? It doesn't specify anything like that, and that's very important. Under section 56.6, it doesn't state what state and federal laws also. That's for unlawful employment practices. As we all know, that's a different law. Under enforcement, section 56.12, it says that the administrator shall review the complaint and decide whether to accept or deny the complaint. How do they accept that? How do they deny it? What is the process? Will there be policies or the procedures? Will this administrator have training? How will they decide whether to accept or deny a complaint? That's very imperative. The public needs to know about these little details. This is not specific at all. Under investigation, 56.13, what kind of investigation will they
Mayor
be
Pro
conducting?
Tem, time is up.
Thank you very much.
Next item, we have work sessions. Item number 1, work session on airport finances and project updates. This item will be,
We're tabling this item for the next meeting.
Do
on
we need a
September
motion?
30th.
Yes.
Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
next item, we have work session presentation from the Meady Foundation.
That podium goes up also, Ray. There's a button to your right if you need it.
I think it'll be fine. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ray Chester. I'm an attorney from Austin, Texas. I've been representing the Meady Foundation for many years. Over that time, I've come to greatly admire their charitable work and the strength of character of their board members and their organization. I thank you very much for this opportunity to address the commission and the public this evening. Because of the vicious attacks and innuendo that have been leveled against the foundation and members of this commission by an extremely vocal minority here in your fine city. Because I've been asked to keep my remarks brief, let me get right to the point. In January of this year, Daniel Molstad, an employee of the Brownsville Children's Museum, was arrested for possession and distribution of child pornography. It's hard for me to say. He recently pled guilty and is awaiting sentencing. This individual is the son of our executive director, Khalith Molstad. These are the facts. They're terrible facts. I'm not here to dispute them, and I'm not here to defend them. But these facts have been twisted in a very unfair way to be used against the Mitty Foundation. And I am here to set the record straight on that. Number one, no one at the Mitty Foundation had anything to do or any influence with Daniel Molstad being hired at the Children's Museum. Not the executive director, not Commissioner De Los Santos, who's on our board, no one at the Mitty Foundation. The Mitty Foundation plays no role in the governance or operation of the Children's Museum. They're completely separate organizations. The only connection is that the museum is located in a building that carries the name the Roy F. and Joanne Cole Mitty Cultural Education Center, which was paid for in part by the Mitty Foundation back in 1999. Now, Mr. Molstad's punishment will be decided by a federal judge, and I'm sure justice will be served. But the Mitty Foundation had nothing to do with this, and they do not deserve to be vilified for the conduct of this person. Now, moving away from these unfounded accusations, let me just share some factual history with you. The Mitty Foundation was founded by Roy F. Mitty, who grew up right here in Brownsville. His family was poor, dirt poor, literally a dirt floor, one-room house. Mr. Mitty was fortunate enough to earn an athletic scholarship to what is now Texas State University. He served in combat in the Korean War and later became a successful and self-made businessman. Mr. Mitty wanted to share his success with his hometown of Brownsville. He wanted to enhance your local culture. He wanted to provide scholarship opportunities for young people who, like himself, needed a little help to achieve their goals. Mr. Mitty's contributions to Brownsville began in a concrete way in 1998 when he was asked to help renovate the Dean Porter Park. He generously donated $3 million through the Mitty Foundation for that purpose. That began a series of contributions and grants by the foundations to or for the benefit of the city of Brownsville that to this day total approximately $6.9 million. In return, the Mitty Foundation has asked for nothing. Could you go to the next slide, please? Unfortunately, Mr. Mitty died in 2007, but in recent years, the torch has been taken up by his grandson, R.J. Mitty. R.J., as you know, is an accomplished actor and celebrity, but what a lot of people don't know because of his modesty is that he spends over half his time on non-money-making activities, Not only is he the president of the board of the Mitty Foundation, but he's a celebrity ambassador for the United Cerebral Palsy Fund. He regularly speaks to thousands of students and young people on topics of diversity in the workplace, overcoming disabilities, and his anti-bullying message. R.J. Mitty has refocused and re-energized his grandfather's vision and commitment to the city of Brownsville, and grants under his stewardship have actually exceeded those of the original Mr. Mitty. Now, I've been shown public statements where citizens of Brownsville have said things like, the Mitty Foundation has stolen millions from the city. This is absurd. We have never received nor asked for 1 cent from the city of Brownsville, directly or indirectly. I've seen statements that the Mitty Foundation is buying up properties as an investment, or in other words, to profit by the city of Brownsville's growth. That's also absolutely untrue. We're a nonprofit organization. All of the properties that we've bought to enhance the cultural district are going to be donated or granted to qualifying organizations. You have our word on that. I see that my time is coming to an end, so I would like to conclude my remarks with a question for the commission. These scandalous and unfounded attacks are affecting our relationship with the city. The question then becomes, does the city of Brownsville want the Mitty Foundation to weather these slanderous attacks and continue our charitable work here? Because we would like to. We would like to continue giving to Brownsville. But we would respectfully ask for some support from the commission just to set the record straight in the face of these attacks. So that's our question. I thank you for your attention. I welcome your feedback, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I will. Thank you for giving the presentation. I'm not sure, it seemed a lot of opinion, but I'd like for you to clarify some things because I think it'll help a lot. Mitty Foundation board members are paid, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm having...
Mitty Foundation board members are paid, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and you're a practicing attorney with in good standing with the Texas State Bar, correct?
Am I an attorney in good standing with the state bar?
Correct.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so given that you have a city commissioner on the Mitty Foundation board getting paid, do you think it is ethical that it might create a problem visually, even if you have the best intentions, to then have this same city commissioner sitting on a board such as the Hot Tax board or these other boards?
Well, if the Mitty Foundation was receiving hot tax money, that might be an issue, but they're not. The money is going to the Mitty Cultural District, and that is a completely separate organization. The Cultural District was formed by the city of Brownsville, and then after it was already in existence, the city decided to call it the Mitty Cultural District to honor the generosity of Mr. Roy Mitty. The Mitty Cultural District is governed by a board of approximately 26 members, and the Mitty Foundation has 1 seat on that board. The Mitty Foundation doesn't get any money from the cultural district. They give the cultural district money, as does the city and many others. So to answer your question, no.
Okay.
And I'd add to that, that there's no hot tax board that makes the decisions on what monies are going to go to these entities that apply for hot tax monies. The decision belongs to the commission. And that's why at the commission level, I recused myself from those votes. Otherwise, that would be a conflict. That would be a violation of state law. That's why I always step out of the room when those come up. Mr. Chester, other than the word of the foundation, do we have anything to corroborate that we absolutely had nothing to do with the hiring or firing, not just of the Children's Museum, but of any entities in the district? But of course, the Children's Museum is where the question is.
Yes, we have a written statement from the museum director stating exactly what I said tonight, that the Mitty Foundation had absolutely zero input in the hiring of that individual.
And because of the questions about foundation and district, and I know even among our own staff here at the city, sometimes we hear the term Mitty Cultural Foundation. There's no cultural foundation. It's the Mitty Foundation or the cultural district. But it's important that people know what is the role of the Mitty Foundation as it pertains to the Mitty Cultural District.
Well, the Mitty Foundation is simply one of the donors to the cultural district. And they have one seat out of 26 members on the board. And that basically is the relationship.
And 8 of those other seats belong to the city of Brownsville.
I knocked off your remote, but it didn't have any batteries in it anyway, so.
You be careful, Monica might tackle you
I
for
think
that.
somebody set me up with a dummy remote here.
That'll be $49.99, sir.
Thank you,
Oh,
Pastor.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions?
This is a workshop. Is there public input? No?
No, it's a workshop, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
It's
Excuse
a
me, this is a
workshop. Sorry, I
workshop
have
with
to
the
call
city
order.
commission and those slated to present, and in this case, it's the Mitty Foundation. If there's no other questions from the city commission, it's my recommendation that you go on to the next item.
Yes, the next item is consent agenda items.
I'll be happy to visit with you about that later.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there a motion to do so?
I move to
Okay,
pull
I'm sorry.
number 12 from the
Second.
consent.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Item passes, so item 12 is removed.
I'll move to approve all items except 12.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So item 12? is
I'll
that-
move to approve item 12.
Second.
We have a motion. Is there a
There was a
second?
second from the mayor.
Oh, all
Second
right.
by Mayor Mendez.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
But discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion.
So we heard the public comment about vagueness, and you as city attorney, how would you respond to that?
Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, and all commissioners, our legal team worked extensively on this ordinance. We've ensured that to the furthest extent allowed by law, this does comply with state and federal law. I know that there have been comments related to, First Amendment rights in relation to religious exceptions. The application of this ordinance does not apply to religious organizations. Religious organizations is defined in definition 29. It's my legal opinion that this complies with state and federal law. We don't have any issues with it.
Thank you.
All right, so do I have a motion?
There was a motion and a second, just to
sorry.
see if there's any other discussion.
Is there any other discussion? No? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all against? Motion passes.
Okay, next item, we have items for individual consideration. Item number 1, approval on second and final reading on ordinance number 2022-1705 of the City of Brownsville, Texas, to adopt the fiscal year 2023 annual budget.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I've got to recuse myself for this and the next two items related to the budget.
Okay, thank you. We'll go get you in the parking lot. All right.
Good evening, Honorably Mayor, Pro Tem, and Commissioners. I'm Miguel Cavazos, the Budget Officer for the City of Brownsville, and I will be presenting the second hearing for the adoption of the annual budget. I think they broke the remote. Next slide. So the city's budget is fully baked and approved last commission meeting. We only have one slide that shows the allocation of the hot funds. Next slide. So we are recommending with this budget to fund the request as it was received. We will be using both fiscal year 2023 proposed budget as well as one-time funding for the Brownsville Historic Preservation and the Gorgas Science Foundation. Next slide. So the next two agenda items are contingent on the approval of the budget. Systematically, the budget should be approved first, then ratified, and finally the property tax rate approval. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm not used to the microphone. Are there any questions from the commission?
This includes the hot tax disbursements?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can we take that separately, or at least I'd like to discuss some of the organizations separately or individually?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. All right.
So let's start out with, okay, good, thank you. For the Gladys Porter Zoo, well, is more of a comment. I guess they're still working out on fiscal year 2021 and the previous year.
This year, yes.
Correct. And the contract ends at the end of this month and they haven't gotten anything.
No, we're still finalizing the contract.
Will there be an extension for them, or how does that work?
It'll be like reimbursed, so anything that they spent, this will go to, back towards their expenses for this year.
What if they didn't spend it because they never had it?
If they didn't spend it, we can look into extending it into the next fiscal year.
Well, I think it would be important because since they didn't have it, they may have not spent it. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try to have as much information as they can, but that doesn't mean they're going to have the whole. How much was last year's?
Approximately 450.
Yeah.
And I received an email where it was that they're still working out the fiscal year the previous fiscal year, not the one that we're currently in.
That was approved by City Commission a few meetings ago, so that one's all settled.
That one, but that one has the expiration date at the end of September. So we've got 3 weeks for them to get their money. And it seems to me that there still hasn't even been an agreement on the contract, correct?
Correct. The Gladys Porter Zoo requested a few edits on the contract, and so we're running it through the process.
So if we don't meet the deadline, what will happen to that?
So as mentioned, those funds they're eligible to reimburse. If not, we can look into extending the contract.
Okay. I think we need to revamp that so that it can be more timely, because all of these organizations depend on that money and they need it on a timely basis. So the fact that we're almost like the whole year late is concerning, and they're going into a new year. So like Pedro is saying, maybe they're cutting back on their expenses because they don't know if the money's really going to come in.
Absolutely. So we were behind because as a result of the audit. And so we don't anticipate this happening again. We've spoken with the zoo, all of their reports are turned in. And so, like I said, we don't anticipate getting behind like this again.
So their money will not be pooled, though.
I'm sorry?
Their money, once they get that $400,000, it will not be pooled because they don't spend it in the next 3 weeks.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sombrero Fest, is there anyone here to represent them? So you've never requested money before, correct?
That is correct.
And now you're requesting $100,000. Can you tell us what that money is going to go towards?
Yes, ma'am. Mainly what it's going to go to is the production cost and promoting the event evenly.
So all marketing or the actual creating of the event?
No, the promotion of the event, of the festivities.
Okay, I think Sombrero Fest is really successful, but y'all have already outgrown it. So what's the goal here?
Really outgrown, and you mean as far as the?
Washington Square.
As being sold out. Usually you all are sold out.
Yeah, we're normally sold out, and that's mainly due to security. We want to make sure that we don't have more people than we can afford there to have. So we're normally in constant communication with our police department to make sure that we allow the right number of people inside to make sure that everybody's safe. So it's not necessarily that we're, I guess, sold out. We just, for safety reasons, we want to make sure we're a certain number of people inside the park.
So if you want to increase your marketing to expand your audience, what are you going to do then to be able to?
No, it's not really to expand our audience. It's mainly to really promote what we're having, our festivities for the community, and of course, our Char Days tradition, which we're part of.
Hi, Michelle Garcia, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Sombrero Festival. What we've already been doing, especially since 2013, growing our social media platform and all the connections that we make through social media and our website, we've already been tracking what is required by the grant. So we felt that at this point it would be helpful for us to go ahead and apply for it so that we can use it again to do what we've been doing, but be able to also keep our ticket sales low so that it's open and available to the community. At the rate that we're going, and if we do try to increase our marketing, at some point we have to increase ticket sales, and we don't want to do that. What we're trying to do is keep it open for the community. And so this grant will help us do what we've already been doing to be able to keep the festival going.
But hot tax money is supposed to attract people from the outside. It's supposed to attract tourism, so.
Correct. So through our website and our social media, as well as our ticket system, we're able to track all the people from around the United States and even some outside of the United States that came down to the Sombrero Festival, specifically in the last year. We're also able to see the IP addresses of where people hit our site, but where they inquire as to, where can we stay, what do we do? Our website our contact information is on the website. So I'll get messages from someone saying, hey, I haven't been down to the Valley in 20 years. My family doesn't even live there anymore, but I know Sombrero Festival is going on. You're very successful. We'd like to go and see what it's all about. Where do we stay? Where do we eat? What days does the festival start, end, et cetera? So we do bring people in as from other areas. Specifically, and anyone that's gone to Sombrero Festival knows, it's like a big high school reunion. And you see all your friends that you haven't seen in many years. People plan their family vacations around that. And so they come and they stay in our city, spend money in our city, not just at the festival, but at local businesses, at local hotels. So we may only be 3 days out of the year, but we bring in a lot of people.
Do you have those numbers?
I don't have them with me, but I can certainly get them so they're exact. Right now, we are approximately at 60,000 participants or attendees on the 3 days, with the exception of last year and in 2021 when we had our virtual show. Last year being this year, February. But we normally attract about 60,000 people. And so they're from all over. We do have a partnership with one of the hotels to offer a shuttle. So I would also be able to get with the hotel and see if there's any sort of records of who's staying during that time frame. But I will certainly be able, if you're requesting it, I could get it.
Thank you.
But I don't understand, because you're one of the highest asks, but you're saying that you're not asking to expand it. Like, if I'm gonna give you $100,000 to increase your marketing, it's because you want to increase your audience.
We're not trying to increase, we're just trying to offset the expenses of what we're already doing.
Aren't y'all you already break even, or you cover your costs, and then you have enough to give to, or local nonprofits, right?
Right.
So don't you think that's a little bit, I mean, it's within the rules.
Right. I think that it's within the rules, but I also think, I mean, we qualify for the grant. It would be up to the commission, obviously, to approve it or not approve it. But I think based on the requirements and the data that you need to keep the grant ongoing, I think we have all that information.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Amigo next. Sorry, yeah.
A comment?
No, I just think, in line with our discussion, Monica, last week, the intent of going forward in the next year or two is making sure that we're able to track, nonprofits and their effectiveness of these funds, right, with the software that is being purchased. And I think that's really important going forward because this process is very subjective. It's hard to, as a commissioner, say, well, that entity deserves X amount of money, but this other one deserves a lot lower. So it's a tough process, to be objective.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yes, that software will assist us through a third party in collecting that data to see which organizations have people staying at hotels. So it'll be a great help.
Are there any more questions or comments?
Or Mr. Amigo, please. Is there anyone here representing Mr. Amigo? Oh. Okay, so who's going to speak, Cynthia or, okay, cool. Well, this is your first time requesting funds, correct? So what do you plan on using the money for?
Well, first of all, we heard the comments that were asked or what the conversations from last week, 2 weeks ago. And we knew one of the issues were that how was the commission gonna give away a third of their fund to events that were happening in the same week? So first of all, we want to say that we've actually voted last week, and Mr. Amigo originated in October. When it first started, it was happening in October. It wasn't during Charter Days. And yes, Charter Days was before Mr. Amigo. But then after a couple of years, there was a hurricane, and that's when the event started to happen in February during Charter Days. So after a lot of thinking and a lot of pros and cons, analyzing everything, we've decided to move the events to another weekend because we want to give the community a different weekend, a weekend where there's not maybe hotels at the capacity, which we know that during the week of February or the week of Charter Days, it's already happening. So we're moving everything to the first weekend of August. People might think, they hear Mr. Amigo, they think we only do things during Charter Days, which is not true. In November, we've established an event called Una Noche en Garibaldi. We've done it for 3 times. It's been very successful. It's been at Market Square, and we've been trying to, get all the restaurants, all the bars, all the locations that are there at downtown. We're trying to take more tourism to that section. So that's something that we always host in November. During January, we also host the Taste of la Frontera, which it's been on for a lot of years. So that's also another event that we do in different times of the year. And we want to bring back a binational 10K, 5K in Brownsville, 5K in Matamoros, which will total a 10K. We did it for the first time a couple of years ago, and it was really successful, but we haven't been able to do it again. And that's what about our mission is, right? Establishing those relationships between those both countries. So we want to keep doing that. And actually the date that we chose, according to the United Nations, it's called the Day of Friendship or the International Day of Friendship. And that's when we're planning to do our events this week or this year, which would be the first week of August. And I don't know if there's anything else I need to add. No, or I don't know if you all have any other questions, but
Does
yes.
it coincide with the summer games?
I'm sorry?
Does it coincide with the summer games?
No, it's going to be the week afterwards. So it'll be a really busy, the last week of July, it's going to be, yes, it's Games of Texas. And then the next weekend, it'll be the Mr. Amigo events. And that's when the Mr. Amigo will come, the event, the typical event that we do, Hands Across the Border, that will be in the middle of the bridge. We will also keep having in Mexico City, or this past year, we did it in New York City, the event where we're also showcasing Brownsville. We will still be having all of our other events. It's just that during the week of Charter Days, now we're going to be able to support our sister organizations because we still want to have that communication and that friendship with them. And we'll also be able to go to Matamoros with Fiestas Mexicanas to join their events. So there's going to be a lot of changes, but we're really excited and we want to give the community a different weekend.
That's wonderful.
Anyone else?
Any other comments? Commissioner Cowan?
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Commissioner Cardenas?
I'm good, thank you.
The only comments that I want to make is, since this is the first time we're doing this year, I just want to commend everybody for the hard work and effort that goes into this because it's not easy. I see up close and firsthand, and I know how hard it is. But since we are, and I also feel very strongly, since it is the Convention and Tourism Fund, that these are two of our strongest events that pull people from other areas across the nation and even in other countries. So I just want to make sure that there's an understanding that since this money is being given, that maybe, you know, just keep in mind that we need to just enrich it for the community as well. That this money, of course, is used for convention and tourism, but that it enriches our community and the community members here as well. Maybe to offset costs and do something extra special, maybe another event or something with money that you might have left over in another area. And so that would be my only thought, just to make sure that the community, because they are giving up, I mean, we have other organizations that could definitely use that money as well. So just to make sure that everybody feels included in it and everybody is part of this unique celebration that we have. Oh, and also bring a really good Mr. Amigo, okay?
They come in for free, and that's something that I want to make sure everybody knows. So it's not that easy to be able to bring someone for 3 or 4 days, and you know the schedule that they have. They go from one event, they go to the next event, they go to the next one. So it's not easy. So that's something that I want to throw out there, that it's not, I mean, if it were for us, we would bring really big people, but it's just hard sometimes to make sure those people come because they're not making any money when they come here.
And I guess as far as Sombrero Fest, I know we've moved on from that, but I just want to reiterate that is a very big draw for people in the community, and very often people cannot afford those tickets. So I hope that you stick to your word and do something so that more people from the community can enter those gates and really enjoy it, because it is a lot of fun. So just want to make sure that this money goes to the best use possible and that everybody comes to Brownsville and sees how fun we are. Thanks.
Can I just add, I think events are fun, but there's all this money going to attract outside entertainment, and this is Sombrero Fest. And I think what makes us unique is our local talent. There's a lot of local musicians that are really awesome, and they just need a little bit more exposure. So if there's a way that you can incorporate them and give them that opportunity, because even though it is about bringing tourism, we also need to highlight what makes us unique. And I think there's a lot of talent here that just, they're looking for that one opportunity, for that little moment to break through. So thank you, though. Can we discuss Midi Cultural District next?
Sure. Is anybody here from the Midi Cultural District?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor. I am Dylan Vanderford. I am the chair of the Midi Cultural District, and I bring with me Veronica, our executive director, to answer any questions that I couldn't answer.
So last time that we met, my question was, what did your application for the hot funds entail? Like what projects were you pitching?
Correct. Okay, so what we have, the breakdown, a majority of that goes for advertising for the Midi Cultural District. So we have several events that would be focusing, that would be digital and social media and actual print advertising as well. There's also a portion for promotional items to be purchased, and then there's also a portion for travel, for tourism expos and that kind of presentations. But that's the bulk of, that's everything of what makes the budget request.
So it doesn't include creation of events like the MOU did?
No, this is all that this covers.
Okay, thanks. Does anyone else?
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so you're going to use $40,000 to promote the district? And what is that, what do you mean by that? Are you going to bring them to what?
That's for advertising for the events that are going to be happening within the district and future events that are going to be anchor events for the Midi Cultural District itself. And then also the traveling to expos that are focusing on tourism to Brownsville and to the Midi
So
Cultural
you
District.
say in the future, is that 2023 or is that after?
This is just as it pertains to this application for 2023.
So you'll have events there, you'll have, what is it, what kind of events are you having?
That's what we're like in the process of. I mean, we are planning on having events that are specifically focused for MCD, but we're using this year, current year in 2023, to see where the biggest return is to have these kinds of events.
Because I would think, let's say Children's Museum, if they're having an event and they're asking for money, they're going to be doing their own promoting.
Yes, but we're also
Why would
doing-
this help them?
We're doing it as an umbrella, if you will. We want to incorporate all of the members of the Midi Cultural District and promoting all of the events that they have.
I understand that part, but they're all asking for more money, so how would we not do this twice? Like, how would this help Children's Museum, who's already getting money, Gladys Porter Zoo, Camille Playhouse is not, but I don't know why they didn't, but Brownsville Wellness. So how would this not basically a double dipping?
In the past, Commissioner, we have done advertising with the organizations in the Midi Cultural District as a unit. Come to the Midi Cultural District, visit these places. It's an umbrella of advertising. We've done it on South Padre Island. We've done it in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I believe the Houston area as well. That advertisement was paid for by contributions from organizations in the MCD that could afford to do it. We didn't have the funds to make those advertisements. Now, with this kind of money available to us, we don't have to charge them in particular, and it helps out the nonprofit organizations that don't have any kind of money yet.
Who would those be? Who doesn't have any funding?
As far as advertising,
Yeah.
The Children's Museum, of course, has their own funding. The zoo has their funding. All those organizations are
Like,
delineated.
who would you
but
think this would really help? I mean, I'm just, these are questions that I get asked every day.
the
So
new
I want an answer
organizations-
for it.
The new organizations that have come into the MCD by expanding the district.
Okay.
Such as, besides Roca, but they do their own advertising.
They do have a small budget, I understand, for advertising, but there are other nonprofit organizations in the MCD.
Such as, that don't get funding already. Which entities are they?
I couldn't tell you.
I think at the end of the day, you're gonna have to find a way to gauge the effectiveness of the funding and be accountable, just like all these other organizations are gonna be able to track all the people that are coming based on the funding that's being used, right? And so how are you guys gonna do that?
Well, that's the beauty of the digital marketing campaigns, is that we can track all that information.
Well, I think that's gonna be crucial here because the optics is, it's like a double dip, right? Because the intent of the MCD was to take over a bulk of the advertising for everyone in the district and be more efficient, and leverage it, right?
I don't know about the bulk, but.
Well, I mean, I think that's what I've been told, and so I know, I support what you guys are doing. I think it's a great idea. I just, from our perspective, we just want to make sure the money is being used properly and effectively.
The goal is not to double advertise organizations. It's to do umbrella advertising for the different organizations that are not as well represented because they don't have the funds to do so.
Understand?
If I may. Sorry. I'll ask my marketing person to fill you in.
Good evening, Mayors Pro Tem, Mayor Mendez, and Commissioners. name is Brian Martinez. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Midi-Culture District. I was here before you at the last meeting to answer your questions about the hot funds and the increase that we had this year. As Commissioner Cowan right now stated, the bulk of the approach is we increased this because we're taking an apparent approach to all of our marketing. That entails the SPI guide, for example. If you were to see the guide, it promotes the area as a whole, not individually of its members. These individual members get money from the hot funds to promote their own individual organization. We don't do that. We'll promote the area of downtown as a whole. So when we do that, we put a map on there. We tell you, you can stay here to sleep, you can eat here, you can dine here. So we're no longer asking the entities for any money. For the last 20 plus years, the Midi-Culture District has not asked the city of Brownsville for money. This is one of the first times, this is actually our second year that we've asked for hot funds for our marketing efforts. And because we have tripled our size, our budget cannot continue to be sustained just with that amount. We need to increase our promotion. But in doing so, we are trying to help all of these entities increase their promotion. So when we submitted our hot application, if you look on there, we actually included data of the number of people we're bringing in, the number of people we're hitting. All of that data, we understand that it does validate the request that we're trying to and help you all understand. Everything is in the application. There was even additional information asked this year from the committee, to which we happily provided the transparency. And we provided line items to which efforts we're going to be funding, like the anchor events such as the Midi-Cultural District's first annual Midi Festival of the Arts. And so this is specific out of the RGV out of Texas. We'll be bringing in very prominent people to be able to attract people not just from Texas, but from all over the nation itself. All of these efforts are not for free, unfortunately, and that's one of the reasons why we have to increase the hot funds. The MOU was point and apart. That actually has deliverables within itself where that money is going. So as we continue to move forward and we work with the city of Brownsville, we ask that we try to be on the same page in terms of where the money is going. Hot funds is specific for touristic heads to beds, as you say. We work with our local entities, with our local hotels. Like I said, all of that is actually already reflected on the application when it was submitted, in addition to more information that detailed by line item what we will be spending our money on this year.
So can I ask you just a little bit about the process? If your board is made up of the different organizations, when you're going to come out with a marketing project or initiative, does each one contribute and then they have to approve it? Because then how do you make sure that you don't duplicate the same location where you're advertising and like the same event, or how are you going to manage that?
One of the new efforts is like, for example, USA Today, I'm sorry. USA Today is one of very prominent advertising opportunity. We double check, there's other organizations are, like you said, to not duplicate efforts. We are presenting everything at our monthly board meetings because we do meet monthly as a board, as a nonprofit with all of the entities, and we keep up with amongst ourselves within the district, what's going on, new funding opportunities, new opportunities to collaborate, what's new in the district. All of this is communicated within our monthly board meetings. So yes, we do share to avoid any duplications of marketing efforts.
So the member organizations will have to approve it before you send off some marketing materials for printing?
Whereas traditionally we would be asking these members to contribute, now we're presenting opportunities and saying, out of this amount that we need, we're no longer going to ask you. We already allocated this from the budget request for the hot funds that we're going to be getting. So like I said, again, we are trying to be as transparent as possible. Our application entails everything that you all need in there. We're more than happy to continue to answer questions.
Yeah, I have another question. So in the past, you were saying that they were giving you money, right? Do you have an idea how much money that was? Do you all remember vaguely how much that was throughout the whole year, though?
I think anywhere from like $200 to $500. And that's just an example of like an advertising cost, per advertisement cost.
Okay.
The costs are like $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000 usually is what it costs to advertise somewhere.
Yeah, so you did that how many times a year, though? I mean, what you're saying is all great, but everybody's getting more money. So if everybody's getting more money,
I understand.
and you all are getting 3 times almost more money. Where's all this money going to go? How are we really going to bring more people into Brownsville because of this? So that's just, I mean, it's a hard sell right now. We're giving everybody money to advertise. And I'm asking if you're having an event, but you're still working on what we're going to do. Everybody else basically knows what they're doing. So it's just hard for me to understand how I can justify when I get asked tomorrow, why did you give them $40,000? And they said they were going to have an event. It's tough. It's tough for me to understand why there's a $25,000 jump and everybody else is making more money. I mean, it's $500,000 more dollars that are going to be allocated this year. So it's just trying to figure it out. I mean, and if you can answer the question, I think we're good.
First off, Commissioner, the events are not coming out of this money. The advertising for those events is coming out of this money.
I understand that, but what is the event that's going to need advertising is a question.
Well, first off, we're going to be having the downtown, what's the name of the event going on next? Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos, okay.
That event is one that is going to be put on with other funds that we've applied for, but we still have to advertise.
Yeah.
In the past, we have put together the South Padre Island advertising campaign in the tune of $8,000 to $10,000, and we've had to get $200 from each individual organization. And while it's not much generally, getting it together has been a stretch. Those organizations, sometimes $200 is a make or break issue. That's why we're taking that problem out of their hands. We're willing to work with those organizations and do the advertising as a whole. I'll use the zoo as a prime example. Of course, they've got the funds, should you approve this item, to do their own marketing. But isn't it a lot better to show all the things in the downtown Brownsville area in the Midi-Cultural District besides the zoo that they can come to?
No,
The
I
zoo is
agree with
one
you. I
component.
think what you're saying makes sense. It's just, it's just questions. I get it. I mean, you go anywhere else and they will not talk about a specific place. So at French Quarter, they'll say for the French Quarter, right?
Right.
I get that part. I'm just trying to figure out where all this advertising is going.
And it's new to us as well, because for years we haven't been funded. So we're building.
Yeah, and I think being able to tell that story of how many people you're reaching, how many, what does that mean to Brownsville in terms of hotel stays and
Again,
sales
I
tax money?
understand
We need to be able to tell that story.
Again, I believe most of that information was provided in the packet.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, that's the beauty of the digital online advertising, is that we can track those things. It's not like a newspaper advertisement where theoretically only the people that bought the newspaper saw the ad. With online digital advertising, we know how many times somebody saw it, how many people interacted with it, how many people clicked it, how many people scanned the QR code. Those are the things that we have available to us with the online advertising.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
If I may, Mayor Pro Tem, a lot of the questions that are being asked, I think, really apply across the board to every single entity. Part of this is due to the city's process prior to last year, because we didn't really vet a lot of these entities as much as we maybe should have. So I think every entity that asks for money should be on notice of the same questions and the same justification for next year, which is make sure you're tracking all of this information. And I hope that next year we have more entities that apply for monies, because my understanding is all the entities that requested money this year were awarded, or at least are being recommended for an award. But there's a lot of entities that we know do some stuff in our city to bring people to the city that aren't on here. So I would encourage those entities to apply as well.
I have a comment as well, Mayor Pro Tem. So I've been here a long time, and I will say that the process of application and accountability is so far better than it ever has been. And there was never, years ago, there was never any question about taking funds back if metrics were not met. There were never any metrics, or at least very rudimentary ones. So I agree with the mayor. Keeping track of the metrics that you, all of you, not that are applying, be keeping track of the metrics, because staff is watching, is now going to be checking those metrics and developing them even more. And I do think the process has become much more sophisticated in a good way.
Let me ask one more question, and this one's for Monica. Monica, if these entities are asking for money, let's say, just for example, let me pull one out, the Museum of Fine Art, 78,000. If it's, is the money given in allocations? Is it something that is being reviewed for compliance and then reimbursed to the entity? Or is there a process at the end of the year to go ahead and kind of reconcile all the expenses and ensure that they complied? And if they don't, what is the process?
Sure. So each organization that receives HOT funds is required to submit several quarterly reports. The organizations, for the most part, receive HOT funds on a monthly basis, so their allocation divided by 12, with the exception of a few event-based organizations who have requested to receive it in a different manner. Like I mentioned, every organization must submit quarterly reports 30 days after the end of the quarter. And for the organizations that have events, they're required to submit a post-event report also within 30 days of the end of the event itself. And so this process was just implemented this last year. So we're still working through the kinks, but as Dr. Gowan said, we're continuing to evolve the program itself because one did not exist prior. And as for auditing the organizations, we did do an audit of all the organizations last December or last fall. And so moving forward, it is our strategy to continue to do audits, just not all of them at once. So we'll do random audits every year.
Okay, but what I'm hearing though, and I'm hearing some concerns from the commission, and I think they're mostly justified regarding whether or not some of the requests are going to qualify or if they fall within the allowable expenses. So in the event that these entities, let's say, do not spend all the money, for example, or if they're using money for something that does not fall within the guidelines, what's the remedy? Because I'm pretty sure that we're not just going to give them a check and all right, thanks guys, we'll see you next year. I mean, there's some accountability built into the process, obviously, right? So I want people to know that, because
Absolutely.
some
So
entities being scrutinized in somewhat unfairly, as if they're just going to get a check and run off. But I know that there's a process here to where there's accountability. So I want that to be discussed, because that hasn't been discussed.
yes, thank you, Mayor. So organizations are required to submit their quarterly reports. If they do not, the checks are not cut for future. And also the organizations, it is in their agreements that they would be required to reimburse the city for any either unused expenses or misused expenses as well. And so that is something that we'll be reviewing as we get these quarterly reports as well.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys can sit down if you don't want to stand up. Monica, one more question for you. Brownsville Wellness, why were they not proposed to get anything?
They did not submit a budget as part of their application. We did.
They submitted an application, but it just wasn't complete.
There was no budget attached.
Would you reach out to them?
We did. We sent 2 follow-up emails, as we did with every other organization, and they did not submit, so we did not feel comfortable recommending.
Thank you.
So for the marketing, though, is the money fronted to the organization, or do they get reimbursed after they show proof of their expenditure?
So it's dispersed monthly. So it could be a mixture of, right? So if, depending on how much the organization gets, if they get 120,000, just to keep it simple, they get 10,000 a month. But if they commit to an ad that's 20,000, they'll have some of it reimbursed. So that just depends on the organization itself and how much they get. But they get, as it is right now, they get a monthly distribution.
Makes it hard to follow up then, or, keep track of.
We've implemented like an email where organizations submit all their quarterly reports. Because we did start late this year, the committee will be meeting to periodically review every quarterly report, I believe 2 weeks after its cutoff date. So that's the process for reviewing the reports.
This is something, though, that I'll say to my fellow city commissioners. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but right now, there's no formula for how much each organization's going to get, like, respective to their event or how many tourists supposedly they attract. But maybe in the future, we should work towards that. Also, right now, it's a fair game. Anyone can apply. Some organizations are not making ends, are struggling to survive, and others break even or maybe even make extra money, like Sombrero Fest, because they disperse part of their earnings to volunteer organizations. So in my opinion, I have issues, unless you say that you want to expand the event of Trow Days like all over the city, or you want to make it like 2 weekends. I have a difficult time justifying the $100,000 request because you didn't tell me anything, like you're trying to grow basically you told me that you applied because you can. And I don't think that's right, or because there's or the zoo, to me, is one of our biggest attractions, and they require so much money. So I feel like we're taking money away from the zoo, which I think is a valuable asset. But this is just my opinion. I don't know if, and right now the rules don't say that. So if y'all want to apply it now, or maybe work towards that in the future, because I think that would make sense.
I agree with that.
So
I
one of
agree
the
too.
things
I
that,
think it's, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
sorry, Mayor, that was me. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I think I agree with that process. I think we should look into that. I think we should also encourage other entities to apply. I mean, like Commissioner Galansky said, it was open. And the zoo, for example, I know that they need the money, but they also the recommendation is to award them what they asked for. So it's not like we're taking any money away from any entity that requested it. Only a couple, but I think the process, like Commissioner Gowan said, has gotten better. I just think that we need more applicants and continue to vet the entities and continue to hold them accountable and ensure that the money is being spent the way it should be spent.
And Mayor, we can have a work session before the next, our next fiscal year to really iron all this out. I think it's fair game. We did go from little to no application process to a much more detailed even reporting from when we were, I remember in 2019 to where we are here. So we've also been change managing our organizations and telling them to get ready. That's why you still have some reports that are still trailing behind, right? But as they become more tech savvy and we have tools to help them, then we'll all become better and there'll be better accountability, transparency. But we will, staff will work this year on having work sessions to really make sure, because we want to make sure that you feel comfortable voting, for who should be awarded money. That's very important to you and to our community. And so we will be committed through staff to have those work sessions and really get it right. And maybe it can be, a one-time, a phased approach, but really that way the nonprofits had the awareness. You also have the ability maybe to allocate a certain percentage of the funding to new events, to someone that's never applied, and have them still go through the process. But if you want, from what I'm hearing, you want diversity in organizations that have maybe never applied in the past, or maybe you want to say, maybe you target a music or art or culture or reading or educational. I mean, you can target different things, new events that maybe we've never had in the city. So this is something we'll work with you all this year.
I have two more questions.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Monica, what was the total number that we had? 2.1, or what was the number? 2.05?
Of the request,
Yeah, no, not of the request, of our available funding.
1.8. million.
1.8? So the one-time funding, no. The money that we have, that we got from tax, from hot taxes, the one we have, is that the exact number?
Yes.
So it's 1.864 and then 154, so that's 2.5?
So the
2.05?
the 158, we're recommending to fund it through one-time requests. We have about 1 million in reserves. And so that way we maintain a balanced budget. We're recommending to just fund one-time requests through capital improvements of historical preservation, since those are eligible expenses,
Okay.
to offset and to able to fully fund everybody.
So we're giving all the money out.
Correct.
Okay, now, that
But
goes to
Commissioner, if I
question.
could just make, this is Helen. I would just say that the 1.8 is what it's like the recurring allocation, but the 158,500, we're taking it out of reserve.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay.
So the 1.8, my question is to you is, if we don't spend 1.8, let's say we would have spent 1.3 and we have 500,000 left over, can we hold that for several years or no?
Yes, that can go into our reserves, and if there's a special event, activity, something, we would come back to commission to seek approval to spend it.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions?
One more thing, this might not be related. Child Days is fun, it's what makes us Brownsville and stuff, but I also want to take into consideration the fact that the city already puts up police and the cleaning. That's a big expense, and I think we should get credit for that too, the city, because that's a big expense that these organizations don't have to cover. And so then if they're coming back and asking for more money, I know that in the past, Sombrero Fest covers their own expenses, and that's great, but the other two don't. So it's not like you haven't been getting support from the city.
Okay, any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, just to clarify, this is, a motion was already made to approve the budget. This is just a motion to approve the allocation of hot funds.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the allocation of hot funds as proposed in this chart.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that going to hold everybody back?
No, can we take a roll call? I wasn't sure if we had
Is
enough.
that going to hold the entire hot fund tax because of the way that motion was worded?
No, I'm not sure I have a clear understanding of who voted for it or voted against it.
Okay, I have Mayor Mendez, aye. Commissioner Cowan?
Aye.
Commissioner Gowan?
Aye.
Commissioner Cardenas?
Nay.
Commissioner Galansky?
Nay, too.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Aye, you're all looking at me. Is that going to hold the entire hot fund?
Yes, the motion was as it was presented.
Why did you make that motion?
Because
we
that's
can't
how
go
it
back
was
and
recommended
change the
by our
motion?
staff after a full vetting process. So I think we're upholding what our staff is recommending and all the entities that applied. So obviously I made it based on the recommendation and what's in this chart. It's up to you, Commissioner, whether you approve it or not.
I'm going to vote. I'm very upset that I was cornered like this because I really do feel like it should be allocated different. And this puts us in a position where now we have to change it next year. And gosh, y'all, if I vote, I have a question. If I vote nay, can it come back next week and be reallocated, or is that the end of it for this year?
It's because it's tied to the budget.
So that's it, it doesn't come back.
I think it would have to be a budget amendment.
We would need to, we could amend the budget later, but in this case, we would want to move forward with approving the budget. Are you?
So even if Commissioner.
No,
It's holding up the whole budget.
I think, I think the budget has to be approved at this meeting, the way it's currently set.
But Council, the budget
It
was.
has to, Lupe? I need clarification because I don't want to hurt a lot of organizations because one is double dipping.
Hi, Lupe Granado, Finance Director. You have several actions you could take. You could approve it, you could table it, but you table the whole budget until next commission meeting. There is timing requirements, as property tax rates and all that ties in. You could amend the allocation to what you guys feel right. Whatever's not allocated could be put in the reserve, and that could come back later through a budget amendment and get approved, that allocation that you have questions on. So
So
The,
is it,
the other option is, Mayor Pro Tem, if the person who presented the motion, if you wanted to ask them if they would accept an amendment to their original motion, it would be based upon their acceptance of that.
Mayor, I'm going to ask if you would consider making an amendment because I do feel like one is double dipping and I do not want to hurt everybody because I feel that way.
I'm not going to accept that amendment, but I do have a question though, council. The way I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the budget, with the exception of this item, has been approved. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So then it's not, in theory, holding up the budget with respect to the rest, correct?
It would just, all the hot funds would be unfunded,
Okay.
and then you would have to come back and amend the budget later.
So the rest of the budget is approved. We can go on with the rest of the budget. It's just this particular allocation that, if it doesn't pass, would not be allocated. But if this is voted down, another motion can be made to approve it another way, correct?
You could have a substantially different motion, correct?
Yeah, so if Mayor Pro Tem doesn't approve it as presented, then it would just die and another motion can be made. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
So
Mayor
you're
Pro Tem.
advising me to vote nay and then present a new,
You could, yes.
okay, Commissioner Galansky, if I do that, would you be willing to make a new motion? Yeah. Okay, I'll vote nay.
Okay, so the motion dies. Is there another motion on the floor?
Commissioner Galansky?
So the motion dies. Okay. So my preference, I don't know, Pedro, if you follow with me, but I'm okay with giving the money as requested, except for Sombrero Fest. I don't think that they showed me, I just don't understand. They're asking for money just because they can. Amigo, Mr. Amigo, okay, you're trying to create a whole new set of events. I wish they were tied to the summer games because that makes sense. But you know, y'all do as you want. And who else? The Midi Cultural District.
That's the one that I take issue with because I feel like it is a double dip.
Okay, well, how much do you want to give them?
I would, Commissioner Cowan, do you have any input?
So may I say something? You see, asking like that, well, what do you think we could give them? That's the past, when allocations were made on a political basis. Well, what do you think? Well, I think this. Well, I like this one. There's supposed to be a process, which is what staff just recommended to us. If you want to change the process, that's fine. But to just say out there in open session, well, what do you think? Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like this. That's not a process. That's arbitrarily deciding based on a whim. And that's not good.
Commissioner Cowan?
Yeah, I think there's value in what they're doing. I think them marketing the district as a whole adds a different dimension to the advertising campaign. I do see that there's an issue with optics and with the players involved, and it makes us, puts us in a difficult position. But I mean, I stress to all the organizations that they're going to have to prove next year that they, what they're asking for, that they can prove that it's generating tourism in a real way, and it's not just just for advertising, and they can prove that they spent the money. It's about what did they bring to Brownsville, and so that's what I task Monica and her team to make sure that they're held accountable. But I do see value in what they're doing, so I'm okay with the 40, but that's my opinion.
Commissioner Cardenas, do you have any?
Yes, I mean, I think optics on this is terrible. I disagree with having a commissioner on the board. I believe when we spoke about this several months ago, about the grants downtown, we were real clear about you cannot get any money if you're on the commission. Your wife can't get any money. Your kids can't get any money. So for me, this is just hard, and I'm not going to swallow this pill. So.
Then we change the process, but we don't just arbitrarily change the numbers like a checkbook.
I'm not giving them numbers, Commissioner. I'm not saying what they should
I
or
know you're
shouldn't
not.
get.
I know you're not. I understand.
I just believe that if we're going to do this with grants that weren't from the city, it was a private grant from the Musk Foundation, and we couldn't go out and get it. You know, it just doesn't make sense. Why we do one thing one way and another. So.
I understand, and I do agree with that. But what I'm saying is, then the commission's vote should reflect a change in process and not just an arbitrary decision today at 6:45 what the number should feel like.
The problem is that we can't talk about this behind closed doors or negotiate ourselves. And so this is really the only opportunity that we have to decide or discuss these things with each other.
I don't think the commission should be negotiating anything. It's just a matter of whether we support the process as it is, based on recommendations that have been vetted and requests that have been made, which are funded in full, with the exception of a couple entities that my understanding were the requests were reduced. So yeah, commission should not be involved in negotiating anything on this.
Then based on that, then I would have to deny the whole allocation because I don't agree on some of on one in particular, which is unfortunate then for everyone else. But unless y'all get your 4 votes, I don't know where we go from here.
Right, so right now, the motion to approve all allocations was denied. Unless there's another motion, nobody gets funding.
Go ahead and make a motion, somebody, Commissioner Cowan.
So I'll make a motion to grant everyone except for Sombrero Fest, none. And then for the Midi Cultural District, I'm okay with giving them half because I'm assuming they have to show that what they're doing before they get their money. Is that the case? Like the way they're structured in particular, since you have knowledge of their specific contract?
So is monthly. So they would get, if they're given, for example, 10,000, they would be getting 8,500 each month.
But then are you seeing ahead of time what they're producing? Or like where they're marketing, what kind of materials they're?
No, we don't see it before. They do share it with the board, as they mentioned, before it runs, but we see it after in the quarterly report.
I feel like Sombrero Fest is justified, but I felt like the Midi Cultural District is piggybacking off of a lot of people who are already getting money. Although I do find a lot of value in what they do and appreciate them. I just feel like this money is allocated specifically for those entities, not as umbrellas. That's my feeling.
Okay, I just found, so I'm okay, because if we keep that, if the money stays in the pot, then they come up with an event, they can petition in a special, for that money. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so then I'll move to everyone except for Sombrero Fest in the Midi Cultural District.
Why are you cutting Sombrero Fest off if they're one of our largest contributors to the convention?
Because they're not trying to expand, like they've already outgrown the Washington Square, so why, and they already make enough money to cover their expenses. So basically what it looks like to me is they're gonna take the city's money and then just distribute it to the nonprofits that they want. Like, then why?
But they have to now advertise and reach a greater audience, which helps the entire city as a whole. And they are our biggest draw. They have
Well, Jessica, you can make a motion too.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to fund Sombrero Fest and everybody, and I would reduce the MIDI to either half or not at all, because I feel like I feel. I don't know if Commissioner Cardenas has any,
The-
you want to reduce?
So,
it
so
No,
there,
just make your motion. I mean,
so if, we need to have a motion and then a second, and then we
Specific.
can have a discussion. We need to see if that motion carries the second or not, and then we can have the full drawn-out discussion.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve everything except for the MIDI Cultural District.
MIDI Cultural District being 0,
20,000.
20,000? Okay, that's the motion. Is there a second? Hearing no second, motion dies for lack of a second. Is there no other motion on the floor?
Go for it.
Te hago la segunda.
I got nothing, no. I got no motions.
I said what mine was. Mine would be then to, no one, everything but Sombrero Fest and the Mini Cultural District. That's my motion. I don't know if I'll get a
Could you,
second.
just so we can get, so not Sombrero Fest and
Mini Cultural District.
both of them being 0?
Correct.
Okay, so that's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
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 Motion dies. So unless there's another motion on the floor, I don't believe there is. I think the commission's exhausted all
Victor,
motions.
so I don't want to hold up the whole thing.
See, now it's in your chair.
That's fine. I don't mind having it on my chair. My question is, can you table two things on the hot funds?
Well, the hard part about that is because this is tied to the budget,
Uh-huh.
and because the budget is tied, as Lupe shared, it's also tied to the approval of the tax increase and the tax property rate. They all have to kind of sync up together. Your effect postponing all the rest.
All right, well, I have a motion. I'll motion approve all of it, half of Sombrero and half of Midi Cultural District.
Okay, that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
The second. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed?
Nay.
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 It's 3-3.
3-3?
Is, can I get that official record, please?
Nay.
Commissioner Gowen, nay. Mayor Mendez, nay. Commissioner Galansky,
I was in favor.
in favor. And Commissioner Cardenas, he voted in favor.
Yes.
You make the motion.
He made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Tetro. Commissioner Cowan,
Nay.
we have 3 nays.
Motion fails for lack of majority.
So Counselor, I'm going to try one more time. So I make a
Okay.
motion to approve as presented and researched and vetted by application process by our staff, with the understanding that the process criteria and application pieces will be approved, must be approved by the commission for the next budget year. Because I do think we should be involved in the process and the criteria, but not in the handing out of dollars, especially negotiating them.
So just to get that clarified, to approve the hot tax allocation as presented, subject to next fiscal year's process being amended. Did I summarize that correctly? And
Yes.
that's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, because I know what's going to happen if I say nay.
All those opposed?
Nay.
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 Motion passes.
Next item, we have approval on second and final reading on ordinance 2022-1706 to ratify property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2023 budget, Financial Services Department.
Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners,
Oh, no,
this
no,
agenda
no,
item got approved last commission meeting. This is a second reading. And in part, anytime that we propose a tax, new revenue tax, we need to have a second reading or ratify the budget. You have any questions?
I have a question. Why is Commissioner De Los Santos not in a property tax increase? I mean,
He asserted he had a conflict. I don't
Yeah, he has chosen to
abstain.
abstain from this one and the next item
this is a
because
fun
it's
one to
related to
abstain
the
from, right?
budget.
Okay, thank you.
You have any questions?
Oh, we've already voted on this one, right? This is the one where we're doing the maximum, but really, in effect, it's going to be lower, what they're
In
actually.
summary, the city generates more property taxes. That's why we need to have this one. On the second agenda item, the city is actually reducing a property tax rate half a penny, which is the next agenda item. But because of the appraisers, we generate more taxes. That's why we need to have a ratification. That's a formal process. Once you approve the budget, you have to ratify it. And then the third agenda item, we're actually taking official action, reducing the property tax rate half a penny.
And the property tax increase is because of the valuation of the properties went up?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No, I'll move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item passes. Next item.
Next item, approval on second and final reading on ordinance 2022-1707 to approve property tax rate for fiscal year 2023, tax year 2022, Financial Services Department.
On this agenda item, we're reducing the tax rate, half a penny. The language, one more? The language in this, we already discussed, but the reason there's a tax increase is because we compared, part of the truth in taxation process, we have to calculate that no new revenue tax rate and the proposed tax rate, because we're generating more new revenues. That's why that 5.2% increase in there. But again, just want to stress that we are dropping our property tax rate half a penny.
I move to approve.
Commissioner Cardenas, by state code, this has to be read out exactly like it's stated on the screen, unfortunately.
Yeah, let me make the motion. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.691919, which is effectively a 5.29% increase in the tax rate.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I believe this requires a roll call.
Aye.
I believe the tax rate requires a roll call.
Okay. So Mayor Mendez made the first motion, Commissioner Cardenas made the second motion. Aye. Commissioner Gowan? Commissioner Cowan?
Aye.
Commissioner Galansky?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Aye.
We have.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, consideration and action to approve the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, BCIC, fiscal year 2023 budget. BCIC and City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. It's great to be here tonight with you to present our 2023 proposed budget.
Do we get Commissioner De Los Santos?
Okay. So over the years, we have developed and fine-tuned our programs to gain the maximum amount of economic impact for our community and bring new money into the city. Our current 7 initiatives are aligned to focus on investment in small business development and entrepreneurship, job creation, downtown revitalization, quality of life developments and enhancements that define the economic development role we serve to make our community more competitive. I just wanted to share a few highlights over the past 12 months. Our Startup Texas is our seed fund that invests in early stage companies. Our goal is to foster a scalable business and provide entrepreneurs in our community the chance to assess capital and commercialize their products or services. This is our third year in this initiative, and this year was actually our first year to do it in person, which we awarded $25,000 to one company to help them start off their business. The audience, we had over 200 people, so we were really, it was well attended. Additionally, our Small Business Development Director, along with our small business programs, have assisted over 90 small businesses, legacy businesses, and startups in providing the tools, resources, and mentorship to get their business started, financed, and scaled up. Our Reopen for Business Assistant Loan Program is a forgivable business loan that funds small businesses with less than 50 employees. To date, we have assisted 43 businesses with a purpose to retain low to moderate income employees or business owners. And to date, we have funded $360,000 of that. Our eBridge Fund is our newest initiative. It's our only revolving loan fund in the Valley. As an entrepreneur and small business owners make payments, we redistribute the funds in form of new loans benefiting other entrepreneurs and small business owners in the community for ongoing impact. We received $2 million from EDA to activate this new program. In 10 months, we have assisted 9 businesses in startup or expansion of their services, totaling $1.6 million, and creating 80 jobs or retaining them. Next slide. So our economic impact are used to create approach to advance economic wealth in our community. This program provides opportunity for financial support towards projects that create attractive environment for Brownsville to be preferred choice to live, work, play, and invest while enhancing the economic well-being in our community. This past year, we have funded 5 projects in an amount of over $600,000. Our Business Improvement and Growth Program, other known as BIG, supports the ongoing efforts of our downtown revitalization. Our big project's intent is to activate vacant buildings and expand existing business operations and support the downtown experience. Private funding in the amount of $2 million, we have assisted in the process of activating 15 vacant properties, totaling over $17 million in capital improvements. Next slide. Thank you. So we recognize how entrepreneurs stimulate job growth, creates new opportunities in industries that need them, and makes communities better versions of themselves. In order to develop and advance an open, exclusive ecosystem for all entrepreneurs, we partner with UTRGV to create the eBridge Center for Business and Commercialization. The 36,000 square foot building, formerly known as Casa de Nylon, on Adams Street, is set to soft open next month. Its purpose is to be the entrepreneurial bridge for startups and small business to scale and commercialize their products and services. With our partners, we have programs that will equip our small business and startup with the skills and resources they need to create job, access capital, and scale commercially. For the fiscal 2023, we'll be the first year in operation, so we allocated $400,000 for the operation of the facility, which includes utilities as well as professional services like IT, janitorial, our event hosting, and preventable maintenance. So since the summer of last year, we have received close to $5 million in grant funds. And that doesn't include the $900,000 we received from EDA for our eBridge construction. Additionally, we received a gold rank for our Startup Texas program, a project in the entrepreneurship category in the 2021 Economic Development Awards program from the International Economic Development Council, which is known as IEDC. In 2 weeks, the staff and I will also be traveling to Oklahoma City to accept 2 additional awards for our ongoing efforts with the big programs as well as the recognition of our eBridge Center. Next. Thank you. So our budget was approved by our board last month, August 25th. Our budget expenses is total $9.4 million. 59% of it goes towards our strategic initiatives. 20% to our debt service, which includes the Brownsville Sports Park and the airport. 15% for administration, and then 6% to our city contracts, which is our administrative contracts as well as the maintenance and operations for the sports park. Next slide. So 24% of our incoming revenue is coming from our grants. We'll be actively seeking grants to assist with operations and programs being offered at eBridge. We'll also be pursuing sponsorship from the private sector to help offset the expenses. I had that attached to the memo to our expenses regarding how much we put for our strategic initiatives as well as our administration operations and eBridge. Next slide. So a total of 9.4 for our expenses for this coming year. So that's the end of my budget proposal. So, you know, I would love to answer any questions you guys might have.
I've got a couple of questions, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Starting with, and just because I think we want the public to be aware, the sports park maintenance doubling from one year to the next.
Yes. This is to, we have been requested by the city of Brownsville because of the operation of the sports park, the increased expenditures. We actually are still in communication. We have a small business, I shouldn't say small business, a sports park committee that we're still negotiating on that. So it's a placeholder of 500,000, no more, to be determined.
Very good. And also, line items 610 and 80, I'm not sure what that number is, but workers' comp and unemployment insurance premium. I noticed workers' comp almost doubled and unemployment insurance went from 0 to 1,000.
For that, for the $1,000, I actually don't know, to be honest, what that was pertained to for this past year. So it was taken. I actually don't know what it was for. I apologize for, you know, being only in this for, you know, less than 90 days. But so we just mirrored it.
And minor TI equipment and furniture under 5,000. I see the budget this year was $4,000 and it's jumping to 50,000 next year.
That's correct, because BCIC's offices are moving into the eBridge Center. So we do need to outfit it with, we are going to have an IT professional, which we don't have currently, as well as any other furniture or equipment we need to be operational. And that's just for BCIC services, not for the actual center. We already have a budget for that, for all the furniture out within the confines of the offices and the common areas. So this is just our offices.
And last one, rental of buildings and land. I see that's going from $12,000 to $1. So I
That's
assume
correct.
eBridge being a city building, you're only going to pay $1 now.
$1 a year for the next 20 years.
Who was making the $12,000 though? Because I thought the Young House was a city building.
Yes, but we were paying the city of Brownsville for the rental of the $12,000.
So we were charging, but both are city buildings, aren't they?
That's correct.
So we were charging $12,000 at one location and now we're doing $1 a year at the next?
The way I look at it is probably because we put in over $4 million for the eBridge, for the construction of
Okay.
the Adams. So that's a considerable amount of our funds. With Young House, it was just for upkeep and maintenance.
Very good, thank you.
Roy, you're supposed to charge
Corey,
them
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Corey, I have a question. How much longer until the bonds for the sports park are paid off?
2027.
Okay, and
years.
has your board, I know, and has your, and I'm sure it's going to go very fast, but has your board begun to discuss at all, and I guess it has nothing to do with this budget, but I think your board should begin to discuss what you're going to do with that fund, those funds once that happens, because BCIC was created for quality of life. And although
Yes.
you've done very well in so many other areas, it was created and voted on by the voters to sustain and support parks and green spaces primarily. And I would very much like to see that become again a part of your mission. And perhaps you should consider that moving forward.
Yeah, I foresee that we should have workshops with the community as well as with our commissioners in the next year or two, because the 5 years, like you said, are going to go quite fast. So we have, when we actually in 2 years, we're going to have half of that debt service
already cleared. So we'll be getting back over $800,000. So we do need to have workshops to know how we're going to move forward to have that impact with those funds.
Okay, are there any other questions from any of the commission? No? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the
Second.
floor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Item is approved. Thank you. Item 5.
Item number 5, consideration and action to approve the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation JIBIC fiscal year 2023 budget. JIBIC and City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor and City Commission. Today, we're going to go through a fiscal budget proposal for 2023, and going from the recap all the way to the proposed budget. Next slide, please. So GBIC had a transformative year, a successful year in which we were able to rebrand our images, get our name out, participate in a couple of events that really make an impact in our community. Going from, appreciating our industry partners to empowering women, allowing them to think of themselves as capable in order to enter male-dominated fields. The BTX Developer Tour is a wonderful event that we do in partnership with the RGV partnership. This is the largest by far in the RGV, and we're really proud of it. We bring a lot of attention from real estate professionals, investors, and people really interested in our area, so it's a great event. Careers in Coffee, this is an event that was created to assist our industry partners with the recruitment process. We've had 2 major events that have been really successful, and we're gearing up for the 3rd one coming up on September 30th, so please save the date. We were able to participate in the Select USA spin-off event. This is in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Commerce. The city of Brownsville was the only city in the state of Texas that was chosen to participate in this event, and this is to attract foreign investment. So it was a great opportunity to showcase everything that Brownsville has to offer. We were able to assist in the open house and mixer for the RGV MPO. And we completed successfully the RFI process for the development of our 730-acre park, which we're really excited about. The selected firm was WTC Industrial, which incidentally we were able to visit this past week. They have a top-notch facility, Class A industrial park in San Luis Potosí, and we're really excited about continuing our conversations with them in order to get this park developed. We were able to memorialize our collaboration with CODEM, which is the economic development entity for Matamoros. We were able to inaugurate the Brownsville and Cameron County chapter of South Texas Manufacturing Association. We were successful in recruiting MBV Plastics this year, and we were integral in the designation of the Texas Enterprise Zone for DHR and Keppel landfills, among other trade shows that we were attended successfully. Next slide, please. So for fiscal year 2022, the job retention, the retention and job creations is as follows. We were able to secure 371 new jobs for the city of Brownsville and retaining 1,386 jobs. Next slide, please. We received a one-time revenue by the sale of a lot for our North Brownsville Industrial Park and for $209,000 approximately. Next slide, please. The proposed revenues are around 5.7, which denotes a 3% increase for the previous fiscal year. Next slide, please. Our proposed operating expenditures are about 2.49. And if you turn to the next slide, Jolie, this is a visual where you would see that the GBIC personnel and services and benefits is the one that increased a little bit. And the reasoning for that is that GBIC conducting a compensation study that brought our existing GBIC employees to market, in addition to creating positions that will solidify our engagement with the community that are needed in order to operate better. So we have a couple of new positions that will be coming in, and essentially also providing the GBIC board the opportunity to staff current positions that are being provided through a services agreement with the city. So it's giving them the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to staff outright or they want to provide, they will continue that through the services agreement with the city. Next slide, please. There is currently 9 GBIC positions that you can see up on your board that we're recommended to be funded. This is a one-time expenditure for the strategic initiatives budget. This is continuing to upgrade the North Brownsville Industrial Park, and also in addition to providing building improvements to our Emery Watts building. It's situated in our Air and Space campus at our airport. It's important to note that our offering in terms of industrial space is very, very limited. So assisting this provides us with at least 20,000 square foot facility that will allow us to continue to attract businesses to our area. Next slide, please. So the proposed strategic initiative budget is that of 2.9. Next slide, please. And this is a yearly event summaries for the signature events that GBIC usually provides in order to have a good conversation with industry partners and a good exposure for attraction purposes. And that is in the amount of $115,000. Next slide, please. So these are the projected commitments for 2023, which total 5.75. And these are a couple of projects that you are aware of and that you have seen throughout the year. Next slide, please. So the proposed overall budget, including the revenues of 5.7 and the total expenditures of 11.4, with a transfer fund balance of 5.4. I would like to note that this transfer is coming from fiscal year 2022 in a large portion, things that are rolling over from fiscal year 2022, to provide a balanced budget of revenues over expenditures. Next slide, please. This is a visual of what that looks like in terms of operating 2.5, strategic initiatives 2.9, and commitments in the amount of 5.8 million, for a total of 11.1 million. This budget was approved by the Board of Directors on August 25th, 2022, and I would like to entertain any questions.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item, consideration and action to adopt resolution number 2022-058, providing for the temporary suspension of certain provisions of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation bylaws, specifically Section 4.02, number and qualifications, requested by Commissioner De Los Santos and Mayor Mendez.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, this item was requested by two of our commissioners. This month marks the month in which the final transition period expires for GBIC. Back in, I believe in November of 2021, this commission passed a resolution to provide a appointment process that would lift the temporary suspension of Section 402 that was previously passed in February of 2021. This marks, again, September marks the month wherein the final sitting commission member on that board was scheduled to roll off, which is Commissioner Cowan. But it was, and I'll allow Commissioner De Los Santos or the mayor to explain, but the proposal is to, in an attempt to maintain continuity and stability within GBIC until a permanent appointment is made for the GBIC Executive Director CEO position, that the suspension of 402 be left and allow the chair, John Cowan, to serve up until 90 days following the permanent appointment of a new CEO or executive director.
Yeah, and Mayor Pro Tem, that's exactly as worded there. The interest is just some stability while they're going through the process of looking for a new CEO.
Okay.
I move to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion?
So why though do we have to extend it instead of just, because the bylaws are now provide for one commissioner to be on the board? Why can't we just now draw the straws and then however long his term lasts, instead of just doing it for 30 days?
It's not 30 days.
Sorry,
It's
90 days.
90 days after the executive director comes in.
Yeah, but why not just draw the straws now and then you can stay whatever your turn ends up being?
Yeah,
Does that
so
work?
I guess what Commissioner Galansky, you're saying is to just give Commissioner Cowan a full reappointment. And then that would cause the drawing of the straws. And so he may get 2 years or he may get 1 year.
Oh, are they just 2-year terms or are they still 4-year terms?
I believe that's the way we set it up to trigger the first cycle, so you have an off cycle. And then they would have reappointments.
Yeah. Like, why did you not consider that or instead of the 90 days?
Because the way the original transition plan worked was everyone rolls off, then the straws are drawn. And we're only proposing deviating from that because of the anomaly of needing a new executive director. So it's just extending or delaying the drawing of the straws until an executive director comes on board.
I think what brought it up was the uncertainty of the time it's going to take to appoint a permanent executive director. I think that's the reason why it's drafted differently.
So do you see there being any benefit to just having it now like that and they draw straws now? Instead of having,
I don't see a benefit to that because then that would give Commissioner Cowan a 2-year term or a 4-year term, whatever the term ends up being, as opposed to 90 days after the new CEO comes on board, at which time he automatically rolls off, and then the commission gets to decide either who that 7th person is, if that's John's appointment, or if we want to elect someone from the commission.
And Commissioner, at that point, they could elect to reappoint Commissioner Cowan or another commissioner at that time to also serve.
Correct.
This just delays that decision until.
exactly. So why not just for term, well, I guess it just, for the existing board members, the other ones that are not John, it just delays their, or extends their term however many months.
Correct.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted, clarification.
Good question.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes.
Next item, we have item number 7, consideration and action to approve resolution number 2022-060, amending and affixing certain other post-employment benefits, OPEB, by prescribing the health benefits for qualified retirees from the city of Brownsville not governed by a collective bargaining agreement, requested by Commissioner De Los Santos and Mayor Mendez.
Would one of you like to speak
Sure,
on
I can
this?
speak on this. And I worked extensively with Assistant City Manager Elizabeth Walker on this. Whenever we made the changes to OPEB last year, we did have discussions then because there were several unanswered questions at the time because the then city manager in working with the actuary did not get questions answered that had been asked. And since then, new questions came up. And so we asked for the new models to be run. Those have been run. And in bringing them back, if we can put that slide that shows the different models up on the screen, that'll make it easier to make my point.
And while we're waiting for that, I know that there was some concerns at the last time this came up. We obviously approved this. It was necessary for the future sustainability of the city. However, there was some concerns about the current employees. And like Commissioner De Los Santos said, there were some questions that weren't really answered as far as, well, how many employees exactly? Where do we stand? Could we potentially consider adjusting some of these guidelines to protect some of the current employees that have served the city for a certain amount of time? So I think these new, I don't even know what you call it, scenarios would address that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner De Los Santos.
Just waiting on the slide. While staff is working on that, let me talk through a couple of points on it. So there's a couple of things that we asked specifically that I wanted to see, and that was about, one, grandfathering employees, because right now the plan was if you qualify with time and age, you still had to retire by October 1st. And my concern was not forcing people out, allowing them to stay, because right now if they leave this week, then we're going to pay for their medical for 10 years as retirees. But if they say, well, yeah, I'd like to stay 3 more years, 4 more years, 5 more years, that saves the city money because we're not paying for them, and we're only paying for them until they're 65, and they'll continue to age while they're still on payroll. So there's savings potential there. So it was about not forcing them out, but also grandfathering employees further. And so those with 15 or 20 years is what we were looking at. There's a baseline that's run. As soon as we get this slide up, you'll see it. The baseline shows what our projected costs are based on what the commission approved last year. If we were to adopt something that grandfathers employees with 20 years of service or more, the ones today automatically grandfathers them. It doesn't drive up our costs. In fact, it will save some money in certain years, especially in the early years. But we're looking at, for those that do not qualify by age, but already have 20 years or more, or 15 years or more. If we were to grandfather the folks with 20 years or more and say you can stay until you reach that age 55, you still get that benefit. Or doing so at those with 15 years of service, when you get to the age, you still get the benefit. But it would be, or it should, the diagram will show for 20-year employees, it almost runs exactly consistent with the baseline. So there's no additional cost to the city of Brownsville. If we did it with 15-year employees, the additional cost per year at peak years would be about $200,000. So we're still saving the millions that we were trying to ensure that we could save because we knew we couldn't afford that, but still allows us to take care of employees, whether it's at 15 years or 20 years. My recommendation would be grandfathering at 15.
That's wonderful.
Excellent.
Who takes care of the AC in here? It's very cold again.
Yeah.
I found it. New one's coming.
Everybody left and it got really cold.
I was cold since an hour ago.
The body heat's gone.
Yeah.
I've been cold for 14 years.
Well, there's a heater under your seat over here. I don't.
I know, and it broke. So they better they're gonna get a new one.
That in the budget?
I don't know. Oh, it's for the census.
If it's going to be a bit to pull this up, then we can move on to other items and just come back for this one.
Or we can just vote.
Yeah, but I think
Well, we gotta see the number, but
Here we go.
Okay.
I voted for it since the beginning.
No, it's the PDF document.
Somebody turn the heater on back there.
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to item,
Do we need to do anything? Victor, do we need
Item-
to?
We can just jump to 8 and come back to 7 without making a motion, correct?
That's fine. You just take it out of order.
we'll take item.
Item number 8, consideration and action to approve the expenditure of $99,365 with Spring City Electrical Manufacturing Company to procure the arm extension to be installed in the new downtown street light poles for the downtown light pole project as budgeted. Engineering and Public Works Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commission. The item today, I'll give you a brief update. This is regarding the street light pole downtown replacement. We've already have the 167 light poles on hand. We've currently installed 78 of these, and you've probably seen many of these get damaged by delivery trucks. The intent of this purchase is to obtain I'd call it a candy cane arm that would raise the structure by 3 feet, giving us a clearance above the typical truck height of 13 and a half feet. Can you give me the next slide? Okay, so here you can see the existing poles that we have are on the left and the typical damages we're seeing right now. Fortunately, this doesn't damage the light fixture itself. It's just the aesthetic shade and the globe that's underneath it. The picture on the right gives you an example of what would be the light fixture we would be ending up with. If we go to the next slide, we can see the difference on one of our trucks, so you can see the height differences. And like I said, 13 and a half feet is the typical height for a class 2, 3, and 4 vehicle, which is your typical delivery truck. The anticipated delivery for these arms is 6 to 8 weeks for the first delivery of 40 arms, And every 2 weeks after that, we'd be getting delivery of 4 arms for 4 more deliveries. And the intent is to continue the installation of the arms on the current lights that we have in place. Once we complete that, we will continue with the remaining blocks on Washington Street, which is, we've completed from 14th to 10th on Washington, and we've completed all of Elizabeth. So we would resume once we complete the extension of the candy canes on Washington Street from 9th on, and then finish on Adams Street. The estimated construction time, now that we have a pretty good idea of how long this takes, it's about a block every week or so, okay? And the idea is that we're gonna do the next sections that are left without needing temporary lighting for an entire section. It'll just be, wherever we're doing the construction work at that time. We're asking for approval on this item.
I like them so much more with the arm extension. It gives them a lot more character. Are they gonna stay with the dented lids?
They'll be
changing
replaced.
up? Oh,
Yes.
wonderful.
And
Awesome.
the company has agreed. They've sent us some already. They'll likely be sending them some additional ones. Some of them, they can be repaired.
Okay, awesome.
I'll
Okay.
move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion. I think we're good.
Very good.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10?
Item number 9.
Oh.
Item number 9, consideration and action to authorize the interim city manager to enter into a service and hosting agreement with Selectron Technologies for a 3-year term to provide automated inspection request services to ensure construction projects comply with adopted building codes and authorizing Selectron Technologies fee structure, planning and health departments.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. My name is Omar Ochoa. I'm the building official with the Planning Department. Also virtually is Brad Ehlert. He's the EA consultant that helped us put this agreement together. I'm presenting here for your consideration a 3-year agreement with Selectron. This is a product that offers interactive voice and text solutions for inspection requests. The benefits, Selectron will streamline the inspection request process provided by the Planning Department with 24/7 bilingual inspection request services. Another benefit is the inclusion of Selectron will free up our customer service team to assist with the contractor questions and other requests. The services provided by Selectron, contractors will be able to schedule, cancel, and obtain inspection results by cell phone without contacting our office. Contractors will be able to leave information pertinent to the inspection for the inspectors. Lastly, Selectron will be integrated with Acela for health and the planning departments. What are the fees? The fees for the 3-year agreement are for planning, $98,897.04, and for health, $46,146.40. At the end of this 3-year agreement, both departments will have the option to renew it annually. If you have any questions, I'll be gladly.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I do have a question, Mayor Pro Tem Omar, and maybe the vendor, this is a question as well. Is there, since this is a calendaring system in a way, and individuals are able to request inspections or request appointments, is there some back-end calendar that's being kept on the city side that automatically approves these requests? Or does it have to be still done by a person at the permitting office?
This is done manually, mostly, Mayor. We have a couple of people that are just dedicated to enter this request to the current permitting system. Also, the contractors that have their online account can request that virtually, but mostly they're usually requested via phone.
Okay, yeah, that was my concern, because it doesn't, if that's the case and it still needs to be approved by somebody in permitting, I'm not sure that it's really speeding things up. If it was.
That's not correct, Mayor. The current system is manual. We have 2 full-time call center operators that answer contractors' calls when they want to schedule an inspection. This will be 100% automated. An individual contractor will be able to use their phone, dial in, and either will be prompted by the phone, or they can text in their request for an inspection. If that particular slot is already occupied, it'll let them know, and they'll have to select another slot.
Okay, great. That's the way I was hoping it would be. Okay, thanks, Rick.
And I'll ask guys like I always do. So if I'm someone who's using this, what does this translate to for me as a user? Aside from now I have to request it from my phone or can request it from my phone, is there any change in the experience? Am I still waiting a week for an inspection or 2 weeks for an inspection? Or when it's a re-inspection, am I still waiting another week? What's my experience as the applicant?
The best experience is that you don't have to wait for a person to answer the phone to get your request. The inspection is still going to be scheduled 24 hours for the following day, as it is currently.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10, consideration and action to approve a professional services agreement with Cyrus 9 Solutions for network architect services in support of cybersecurity, maintenance, and mitigation in an amount not to exceed $173,000 as budgeted. Enterprise Applications Department.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Walker in the Office of the City Manager, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you our newly hired Enterprise Applications Director, Mr. Jorge Cardenas, and he'll be presenting these items this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. As Elizabeth said, my name is Jorge Cardenas. I am the Enterprise Application Director, and today I'm here. The purpose of this presentation is to propose a new design for our IT infrastructure. Why? I believe that we need, there's a room for improvement in our IT infrastructure. Who has this problem? The whole city has the problem. And why we need to, address it as soon as possible is to reduce the cost and protect the data from theft and damage. Right now, we are currently paying over $250,000 in services just to, maintain our end-of-life equipment and professional services. So my proposal is to hire professional service, which will include CCIE as a network architect. That person will come in here and conduct a thorough assessment, document optimal design, configure monitoring tools, and address operation and maintenance issues. So in this solution, it is included, the purpose is to stabilize our network infrastructure right now. There's a lot of areas of improvement. So the benefit will be to obviously improve the IT infrastructure availability and resiliency, introduce automation to improve efficiency, increase security posture, stabilize IT infrastructure. That's the last one is the one of the main ones that we're going to address in the next 6 months to make sure that our network is secure and that we have our data protected. The cost, again, is $173,000 for 6 months. Any questions?
No. Are there any questions from the commission? We have questions.
I have questions because it looks like this item and the next agenda item are about cybersecurity. What is the difference between these two items?
So the first, they go hand in hand. So the first one is the design of the actual infrastructure. So the network architect is going to come in here and do a full assessment of how our network is being operated currently. So from my observations, there is a lot of work to be done, and he will pretty much give us a plan on what to do next after this. The other one is pretty much to implement a new cybersecurity program to monitor and response to all those threats that we have in our network.
So how do we know that the next item is going to come after this? How do we know what it is we need to implement if we haven't done the assessment yet?
Commissioner, that's why this item comes before the next. This item is a 6-month term contract to conduct that assessment. Based on the findings of that assessment, we will then be fully informed to know what it is we implement with the subsequent agenda item.
yeah, I think what the commissioner's asking is, how do we budget $226,000 if we don't know what we're missing? All right, was that kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, on my observations, if you ask, I ask a lot of questions on how the current state of our network is. So I'm not sure if this is the place to discuss it, but there is a lot of concerns that I have to, and it needs to be addressed immediately. I can go on several explain.
We may not want to disclose all those.
No,
Let's
that
not
makes
let
sense.
on. Just kidding, guys. We're safe.
And we don't disagree with you guys on that. We understand that, and we sure there are very pressing needs. The question is, we're about to consider an item right after this that says we need to spend X to fix the problems, when we haven't done the study that tells us what the problems are. That's the only thing I'm trying to reconcile.
Yeah, would you consider this to be a necessary
Commissioner.
expense?
The subsequent
fix it.
agenda item is for an amount not to exceed. So we're establishing a threshold not to
Okay.
exceed a proposed amount with item number 11 based on the findings of agenda item number 10.
So it could be less, could be something different, depending on what the findings are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But it could be more. It could be more.
Not as proposed.
In which case she will come back for an amendment.
I
Thanks
think
for
the
that.
needs are certain, I believe what the director is saying, that there's certain needs that he already knows that we need ASAP. And so he doesn't feel comfortable waiting any longer because we haven't had that type of assessment.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay.
Motion
to
There's a
approve.
motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, don't forget that.
Okay, item is approved.
Next item, item number 11, consideration and action to award purchasing cooperative contract DIR CPO 4920 with GTS Technology Solutions for CrowdStrike Falcon Complete Cybersecurity Protection Services in an amount not to exceed $226,007.16 as budgeted.
Okay. Is there a presentation or is?
I guess we kind of spoke about it.
Yeah, so I can just go a little bit over. This is the program, right? So the other one is a design and an assessment of a current state. That's to prepare us for, the 5-year plan, or what I call it, the promised land where we're going to be at a state where we stable, right? So this one is pretty much to address those issues that Ms. Ramirez stated that I have noticed. And this is just the program to do that, to start right now, be proactive, and not wait until later, until the assessment is complete, to implement this program. I think this is a very necessary, program in the city of Bronzeville. And one thing that, as you can see on the benefits, the time that takes the industry to identify or discover a threat in our environment is 120 hours. This system will take 1 minute. The other one, it will take 11 hours to investigate after the threat has been identified. And then this system will take 6 minutes. And the remediation usually take 31 hours. This system will take 29 minutes. So it is a proactive program where pretty much there is no interaction from our FTEs.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
On discussion, I have a question for you. Is this going to be just city proper that we're working on our systems? And I ask that because of the problems PUB had earlier this year.
This will cover just the city, the airport, and PD.
Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
I think,
I just had a quick question. Does this help address any ransomware concerns as well?
This is exactly what will,
Okay.
pretty
That's
much
what
is
that's what this
exactly
is
what it will
focused-
be.
Okay, just
Yes,
want to
sir.
make sure. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. What about the item that we skipped? Can we go back to that? Are we ready?
For item number 7?
Yes.
Ma'am. We're back.
Excellent.
Cold.
You can sit closer to me if you want. Keep you warm.
You crazy guy.
Commissioners, for the benefit of the public that are following at home, what will be displayed on screen is included in the agenda packet. It's an attachment. It's an attachment titled OPEB 001 Brownsville April 2022 OPEB Study. It's a 7-page PDF report. As Commissioner De Los Santos indicated, it reflects revised models and scenarios from the actuary based on different scenarios as he requested.
Okay.
Was it not loaded into the presentation?
It's
Mayor, no, sir, it was not embedded within the PDF PowerPoint. We have it separately available as an attachment.
Why wasn't it attached as part of the PDF presentation?
Go right down that chart right there. That works. That's a good first one. But we can't see it all on our, there you go. This one works to start with. So here you can see what we were looking at before any changes were implemented last year. The red line on top is where the city was headed. With what the city adopted last year, and the reason for the red dash line is because where the city was headed last year overlaps with some of the new scenarios we asked to be run. So scenario 1 is 15, grandfathering employees at 15 years. Scenario 2 is at 20 years. And you can see scenario 2 runs almost identical with the new baseline. So there would be no increased cost to do something like that. And scenario 1 with the 15-year employees, the increased costs are minimal. And if we go to the slide or the graph at the top of the next page as well. The two on this page are with police and excluding police. And then go to the next one. This one here. So the projected annual retiree medical benefits, and I think this is where we really see what the year-to-year savings is going to be. So again, the red line on top is where we were headed. The dashed red line is where we're going now based on what was adopted last year. And what I'm recommending for consideration are scenarios 1 and 2. Scenario 2, you will see runs slightly below the red dashed line in the first few years. So there would actually be some savings there. And then they pretty much start to run together around 2030. As where the blue line, scenario 1, grandfathering employees with 15 years of service, that has a slightly increased cost. But when you look at the difference between the two, during the biggest gaps, you're looking at about $200,000 more a year.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'll make a motion so that we can open the floor for discussion, but I'll move that we adopt scenario 1, grandfathering employees who already qualify.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Was that with the 15 years, Commissioner?
Correct. Scenario 1 is 15 years.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Right now, we're just going to open it for discussion.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question, because I can't see it on here. So scenario 1 is 15 years? Scenario,
If we go, let's
2?
go up to the table that shows what the different scenarios represent for the commission. Further up. Further up, the printed page. And I think I've got green highlights on it. Keep going up. Keep going. There we go, a little bit more, right there. There's scenario 1 and 2 that are highlighted in green. So this would be grandfathering people who are eligible today with both years of service, that's 20 years of service and age 55 or older, automatically grandfathered. For anyone who does not have the age of service, but has already got 15 years in with the city, they would be eligible to get those benefits starting at age 60 now instead of 55. So now the city would only be paying for them for 5 years. And it's something that they would not have been getting under our old plan.
I have a quick question. So you didn't receive this information when we voted on it originally?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't one of the scenarios. It was something we requested, but it wasn't one of the scenarios that was ready or anything that was presented to us as an option. And I think you can see there on item 1, it captures 57 grandfathered employees and 216 additional, right? So it's a big impact.
And keep in mind, remember, some of the response back then was, what you're asking for is going to trend somewhere between things that have already been modeled, so it's not cost effective to model them again. That was the response I'd gotten at the time. This time we forced it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's great. Congratulations on it.
Yes.
Thank you guys for the support on it. And to the employees who stuck it out this long that are eligible, it's for you guys. You guys deserve it.
Thank you for your loyalty.
Next, we have board appointments. Consideration and action on resolution number 2022-055 to appoint one member to the Animal Regulation and Care Advisory Committee, Public Health Department.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Commission, Mayor, good evening. So tonight, we're proposing to add a vacancy which is specifically written in code for the title of veterinarian. We propose to add Dr. Logan McAllister to the board, and that would be the very last position that you see at the bottom that stipulates vacant. Specifically, under the city code, it's vacant for the position of a veterinarian. So we ask that you would approve this. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I'll move to approve.
There's a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion?
do
Yes, I have a few questions. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez, because of our consent agenda item earlier today, appointing a new medical director, I believe that person, would that person automatically replace Dr. Wells, or how would that work? Because if not, then I think that replacement needs to be made at a future meeting.
Good evening. No, that agenda item under consent earlier was not for our department. That strictly falls under the purview of the
Fire.
EMS and fire department.
Okay, well then I think we need to look at that at a future meeting.
I think what you're saying is correct, Mayor, that other appointments will come on the next
So in
meetings.
December, under normally scheduled, we have boards that come to you for a blanket approval. At that point in time, we'll be bringing other work to you.
Commissioner.
I had a question on your meetings. How are they going? Are you getting everybody there?
So I actually recently sent an email to the committee. Situationally speaking, the animal shelter right now has had big turnover, and one of the other things under the current is they were asked for us to meet more frequently. The board under ordinance is to meet quarterly. So I asked that we delay our last quarter meeting to allow our staff to be able to come up in numbers that we can focus primarily on our work that is the core of the animals. But I asked that give us time to be able to get that in place and be able to come back. This is actually a step in that direction to be able to have the membership that we need and the technical expertise. So we're kind of back at building back again our core, but we're trying to move the issue forward again and to where we need to be to have some bigger vision conversations in the near future.
Okay. Now, another question would be, like stray cats, is there any way they can get fixed there?
So-
And you charge something that it stays there, and we're able to do two things at a time. First of all, stop kittens from,
Absolutely.
right, I mean, everywhere. And second, bring a little bit of funds into the, because I mean, I've tried to go to several places, and they're booked for months.
So I'm gonna try and answer a very big question very quickly. Recently, we had the Best Friends Network come and do a shelter assessment. One of the strategies that was identified under that assessment was to initiate a trap, neuter, release program, a TNR program, as they call it affectionately. We are working with our veterinarian to begin such a program. There are certain pieces that we need to put in place. One of them is having completed the assessment, needing the leadership, and then also being able to have rescue groups. I do have a meeting with a Brownsville Animal Defense, being one of the rescue groups who has expressed an interest in helping us run what would be a program of that magnitude. Keep in mind that many of these programs, as a city adopts a vision of reducing the the euthanizing of animals really requires a community-wide approach. It can't only be from a city perspective or from the shelter perspective. So we really need a lot of people on board to get behind us on what would be a trap, neuter, and release program.
Is there any other questions?
I'd just like a list of your attendance to see if not, I mean, replace people who don't go.
I certainly can submit that to you as a commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved.
Thank you.
Next item, consideration and action on resolution number 2022-059, one, suspending the JBIC bylaws related to board appointments solely for considering one agenda item, Project Bridge, and two, appointing 1-4 special directors to serve on the JBIC Board of Directors with the limited purpose of presiding over Project Bridge. City Attorney's Office.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, this is something I feel very strongly about. We've got a conflict like this. Those members of the GBIC board who have the conflict, I think whoever appointed them or whoever the appointment belongs to, they should be the ones to select the person for this.
Okay,
If we could get confirmation on what four positions have the conflict, and then allow those members of the city commission to pick who's going to sit in that spot for that one item.
okay.
I think that's the fairest way to do it.
The positions that have a conflict are the IBC board members, an IBC staff member, and one of our more members that may be related to the project. So Liliana Elizondo, our Chairman Cowan,
Elizondo was appointed by whom?
by Commissioner Gowan.
Okay. Rose Gowan? Okay.
The other one would be Gerardo Gonzalez, appointed by Commissioner Cardenas. The third one would be,
Ms. O'Quinn by Commissioner Galansky?
that's right, Ms. O'Quinn by Commissioner Galansky.
And then Commissioner
The
Cowan,
commissioner.
which that appointment would belong to him, in my opinion. That's how we should do it.
Thank God it's not my appointment because I hate picking these spots.
Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Commissioners, it's also my recommendation that, if possible, those appointments be made tonight. Just because this item has been tabled, it hasn't been able to be considered yet because of a lack of quorum to consider the item. This will self-expire after the item is actually heard, discussed, and acted upon, so.
Okay, does anybody want to make an appointment?
Are all four of you guys comfortable? Yep,
Now,
make
I
an
have a
appointment
question. Could it just be ourselves for this or no?
Yes,
tonight. Can it?
yes.
Because of everything that's gone by. I mean, I don't
Even
know.
with the
who we're
limit
gonna-
of one commissioner in the resolution?
The way I have it here is just to suspend appointments.
Okay.
The appointment of board members altogether, just for this one specific item.
That
So
works.
that when we have the meetings, we'll have more people there, but when that item comes up, commissioners, you would attend, that item's no longer considered,
That's it.
switch out.
If you're good with it, I'm good with it.
Okay.
So would it have to be posted then, in that instance, Victor?
No, because the way we drafted it is just appointing, so there's two parts of it, suspending the GBIC bylaws related to board appointments solely for considering this one agenda item, and then it's also the second part, appointing 1-4 special directors to serve with a limited purpose of presiding over that project. And I drafted it that way just because I couldn't assume what what this commission would want to do, but it gives the leeway to do any of those options today.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I motion that whoever put those commissioners on, I mean, those board members on, become board members for that one.
Special directors for that, for Project Bridge.
Oh, that's right. He's got to pick someone else.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So,
So I'll make the motion, if it's okay with Commissioner Cardenas, to appoint Commissioners Rose Gowan, Commissioner Nerith Galansky, and Commissioner Pedro Cardenas to 3 of the 4 vacancies, and the 4th name, and Paul Sarafi as the 4th.
Okay.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have discussion. Is Dr. Gowan still on?
No.
No,
Okay,
she's not
well,
there.
I just was gonna ask her,
Would
but,
be opposed to that unless, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you can nominate her.
Well, and another thing is if she rejects it, she
We
doesn't
still
want
have
to serve.
quorum.
We still have a quorum, correct?
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Next item is executive session. Mayor Pro Tem,
Okay.
it is now 8 o'clock. If you want to make a motion to move into executive session?
So
Okay.
moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
The following items will be considered for discussion during executive session. Item number 1, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney to discuss legal issues with the city attorney, and 551.087, economic development to deliberate the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city related to Project Create, Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation by City Manager's Office. Item number 2, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Sections 551, consultation with attorney, and Sections 551.074, personnel matters to deliberate implementation and enforcement of various personnel policies related to the filing of employee complaints. City Attorney's Office. We have everyone back. It is 8:34. Next item is adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Trey seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
It is now 8:34. Meeting
Had a
has
nay, though.
ended.
I had an A.